ever going to start this podcast you've been talking about for like forever?
Do you think that anyone will actually want to listen to something like this?
What is your plan for an introduction?
Are you sure you want to talk about these topics? People usually disagree.
3 hours? Are you crazy?
Do you think you're some kind of expert or something?
Are you planning to have an intro song?
What if a bunch of people get really mad and hate you over this?
Do you even know how to make a podcast?
Are you just doing this because you like to argue with people?
Don't let this be just one more thing that you talk about doing, but never actually do.
Wouldn't it be better to do just one episode for each topic?
Stop trying to change people's opinions. Just live your own life.
Dude, people are never going to agree. Just let it go.
Is this going to be a long intro? Because if it is, I'm bored already.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Before getting to today's episode, I have a little story to tell. But it's a story that teaches a moral. Like a fable, I suppose. Kind of like that Aesop guy. Or maybe it's more of an anecdote? I don't know. Either way, it's a true story where I learned something very valuable. When I worked at Sony in San Diego, I became friends with this guy. I actually don't even remember his name. I was also a vegetarian at the time, which is relevant to this particular fable. And I wasn't just a quiet vegetarian who minded my own business. I was pretty much an activist. I would tell anyone around that I was a vegetarian, and that they should be as well. Because if they ate meat, they were obviously the most evilest person on the planet. The cafeteria at Sony was really cool. They had a lot of good stuff. But since I didn't eat meat, there wasn't a whole lot for me to choose from. However, they always had mass amounts of instant mashed potatoes that were cooked and ready. So for lunch, I would usually just get a massive plate of mashed potatoes. So healthy and packed with all the necessary nutrients my body needed. I don't remember what it would cost me, like $4 or something. So one day, I was there eating my mashed potatoes with my friend whose name I forgot, and then his friend came over to talk to us. His name was Caesar. Of course I remember his name. When Mr. No Name introduced him to me, Caesar said, "You are the vegetarian one." This is the first thing he says to me when he meets me. No smile, no handshake. Anyway, so I replied, "Yes, I am the one and only vegetarian one." He didn't find this amusing at all. And with a scowl on his face, the first thing he does is look down at my feet. I'm like, what the heck is this dude's problem? I'm about to ask him this when he says to me, "Your shoes have leather on them." I'm like, okay? Then he says, "How can you eat meat because you care about the welfare of animals all the while you stand there wearing their hides on your feet?" I was floored. Who does this guy think he was? I said, "Well, I do what I can." A pathetic defense, I know. He says, "No, man, no. You can't do that. You are either all in or all out. It's hypocritical of you not to eat meat, but still wear cow shoes." I had no response. He was right, after all, even if he did approach it in a wrong way. So I just stood there, eating my mashed potatoes, wishing that I could somehow escape. He just looks at me with this knowing look on his face as if to say, "Yeah, I sure won that argument." And he did. And it all happened right there next to the mashed potatoes. A place that was once a happy place for me. A place where I could enjoy my fluffy instant mashed potatoes in peace and tranquility. But now it had become the place where I had been humiliated. And from that moment on, I vowed to never eat mashed potatoes again. Well, at least not instant mashed potatoes. And as I sat there in my shame, I lifted my eyes again and looked over at my new friend Caesar. And do you know what he was doing? Other than basking in the glow of knowing that he had won? He was eating ribs. Ribs! One of the more disgusting forms of meat in the eyes of a vegetarian. This guy wasn't even a vegetarian. I had been called out for my hypocrisy by someone who wasn't even on my team. For some reason, that made it even worse. So now, whenever I am enjoying some nice savory ribs, picking all that delicious meat right off the bone, I think of my old friend Caesar, and I thank him for teaching me about being all in or all out. And in this case, I eventually chose all out. My guest today is Danielle McFarland, someone who has been a part of my life for a long time. I was a freshman in high school when she first started dating my cousin Danny, the same Danny that you got to know if you listened to episode 9 of this season. They would eventually get married, and I would give the most amazing best man toast of all time at their wedding, by the way. Then they would have a daughter, but then would eventually get divorced, and Danielle would move to Washington. I would still get to see her a few times a year whenever I would visit her area, so we have kept in touch. From the time we first met, we would always butt heads, her being just as stubborn and open-minded as I was, and even back then we would have some pretty good discussions. If you have been listening to this podcast, you have heard me tell stories about going to Bible studies where I would argue with Christians and tell them how stupid they were. Well, Danielle was also at those Bible studies. All that to say that Danielle has been involved in my life in one way or another for quite a long time. She even went with us to watch NF perform in Portland during one of our last trips there. All these years later, even though we were probably both still stubborn and open-minded, we had a really good conversation, and it was fun to talk about some of the heavier issues that we haven't talked about in quite some time. Topics in this episode are co-parenting, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, the Pointer Sisters, Tupac, P. Diddy, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Keith Sweat, Taylor Swift, Rascal Flatts, Maroon 5, Olivia Rodrigo, Ed Sheeran, Lady Gaga, A Star is Born, the movie Not My Autobiography, emotional movies, true crime, Paramore, Christina Aguilera, Gwen Stefani, Chris Brown, walking on the holy ground of the Beatles, homelessness as a mental health crisis, birth control, body count, hate, homosexuality, sex with iguanas, trans rights, how it's possible to be both stubborn and open-minded, intelligent design, blind faith, morality, nature versus nurture, adultery, understanding versus condoning, is gender an absolute truth, and racism. And hey, one last thing. Today is actually my birthday. Like for reals, not yesterday or tomorrow, today. So since I know that you have all been scrambling trying to figure out what extravagant gift you can get me this year, I have the solution for you. You can tell everyone you know about this podcast, and you can also leave a review of this podcast wherever you are listening from. That would really make my day, my birthday, don't forget, all the more enjoyable. Thanks. Now enjoy the conversation. So anyway, I don't know. I was trying to think of where we should start. I was trying to think to myself about, well, let me ask you.
Okay.
When do you remember the first time that we met? Because I have one thing.
Okay. I don't remember like where. Like, we were at Angie's house or something. I don't remember like a location necessarily. I know that it would not have been at Danny's house. I don't remember a location. You know, I picture you wearing this black and white plaid type of shirt, flannel, probably flannel, black pants with Tic Tacs in your pocket all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it was at Jennifer's house. Would it have been at Jennifer Dabowski's house?
I don't really know. I can't remember. The earliest memory I have was the night that all the power went out in Santa Maria.
Yes, that's when
I don't remember whose house.
It was Angie's house, actually.
It was Angie's house. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the first night I met Danny. Well, I knew him from school, obviously.
Correct.
But, him outside. Yes.
Yeah.
So did you go with him to that party?
No, he was already there, and he called me up, and it was me and like Trevor and some of my other friends were just hanging out at my house, and the power had gone out. Yes. And he's like, "Hey, we're over at this party at the street." So we walked from the Drake house.
It was the condos, North Point. What are they called?
Yes. Yeah, North Point.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, off Foster.
Yeah, no, that's where Angie was living. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we walked all the way there, and it was the most surreal thing because there was no lights anywhere.
Yes.
Like it was just darkness, except for like the cars that were driving by with their headlights, you know. But it was like all the houses' lights were out, all the like restaurants and stuff were out. It was crazy. So I mean, obviously, I didn't really get to know you that night, but I mean, that's the first time I ever remember hearing your name. Yeah. I remember thinking, and I think that was after that night that you and Danny started dating. And hanging out, and whatever we're gonna call that.
Yes, we're gonna call dating. Yeah. Yes, that is where. Yes, that is where I remember meeting him for the first time, like outside of school. And I don't know how he came over because I don't think that Jennifer and Kevin came to that event.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Why else would
he have been there?
I don't know.
He wasn't friends with anyone else who would have been there. Well, maybe Jennifer and Kevin did stop by.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but no, he was there.
Yeah.
Yes, that was at that time I was dating Adam seeing one of Adam Grasha's friends. You remember Adam Grasha?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was seeing one of his friends, and then I saw Danny there, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to see that guy anymore."
Why did he make a move on you or what?
No, not at all. But I was like, "Oh, that's Danny from school. He's so cute."
Okay.
We're just going to leave that's how that ended that situation because we don't speak of how that transpired at all.
Well, but then fast forward, you guys eventually got married.
Yes.
Had a child who's Jocelyn.
Had one of those, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, and I always tell part of the story just because I think it's absolutely amazing. I've never seen it in any other situation, that the relationship between you guys still today and between you and Danny's new wife is just unheard of. You just don't see, that's like a sitcom or something. You have to write that script, you know, because usually there's animosity and, oh, I hate this person and blah, blah, all this problems. And, you know, it's just not like that. So
I think it did help that like I moved up here and had those few years to like settle in to my new life, make new friends, make new relationships, new work. Right. And I didn't have to share her. I didn't have to deal with like, you know, it is hard. Even when you go along, it's hard that they're married to someone else and their parent, you know, you've got another person parenting your kiddo. That I had 3 years of like just her, not sharing her, not feeling threatened, not seeing them at a grocery store when I wasn't prepared for. Before they moved up here. And I think that was key to us being able to be in a good place.
So if they would have followed you like the next month, you think it would have been
it probably would not have, I'm pretty sure would not have been as good.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's definitely commendable because like I said, I've never seen that in any other situation. So,
and it's good for Jocelyn because she never felt like she had to pick a side or choose a parent or just see us fighting or, you know, ugly like parental sharing, you know, if it was someone's day, but the other parent's day, but the other parent had like family in town and wanted to visit them. Yeah, of course you can do that. We'll make up the time later. Like go see your people, you know,
right.
There's a lot of people out there who don't do that. You know,
oh no.
My day
yeah.
Screw you.
Yeah. It gets ugly. Yeah, for sure.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into music. Have you listened to any of these yet, by the way?
I've listened to a couple.
Okay. So you kind of know the format.
I do know the format. Yes.
Okay. So we jump into music first. That's probably the easiest topic. Although I have had people tell me that's the part I'm the most nervous about. I'm like, what?
That's what it all that's weird. No, because I'm prepared for the music. I can do this.
Yeah. So I like to start with the first, your earliest memory of music, your earliest time you ever thought to yourself, this is the greatest thing. I love this. I got to get this 8-track or cassette tape or CD or I guess, you know.
I mean, I'm old, but I didn't have 8 tracks, my friend.
What are you like? You're only like 2 years older than me, aren't you? 3 years older than me?
47. So like 2?
I'm 45. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 2. Yeah. Earliest. Oh, easy. Hands down. Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember first grade, I had a little trampoline in my bedroom and I would play. Oh, it's probably records or a tape. It could have been a tape, honestly. But there's a song, I don't think it was Thriller, but it could have been Thriller.
Okay.
That there's a knock on the door in Thriller or whatever song it is. And I always thought playing it in my room that like it was someone knocking on my bedroom door. Like every time.
Nice.
And you would think that after like the first time I'd be like, oh, that's not, yeah.
But you still fell for it every time.
Every time I'm like, yeah, come in. Oh, wait, no. It's Michael Jackson again. I forgot. Yeah. But I would like jump on my trampoline and like rock out to Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
100% the first artist that I remember like choosing to be interested in.
I think that's probably my answer too, now that I think about it. And I've never really thought about that before. I always think like the first songs I ever heard, like in my mom's car or something. But
yeah.
The first tape I ever remember owning, cassette tape, was Bad by Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to play that thing out. Like it was just, just fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my first concert was also Michael Jackson.
You saw him live?
Yeah.
Shut up. Really?
At the Staples Center.
No way.
Was it the Staples Center back in the 90s?
I don't know. What year
80s?
was that?
I don't know. I think I was just as young. So my aunt, my dad's sister, she was like the cool aunt, right? And she took me to my first concert. I had to have been about the same age. Now, okay, I don't remember, or I don't know when like the Jackson 5 like split up, by the way, because that could have been in the 70s for all I know. I don't really.
Well, they did the Jackson 5, then they were the Jacksons.
Oh, maybe
70s.
Okay, so maybe that was the 70s and
that was like their kind of their disco, and then Michael Jackson went solo. But why he went solo, he was still part of the Jacksons. Like they still released albums even when he was doing solo stuff.
Well, the concert that I went to, I should Google it, honestly. I should probably figure it out. But the concert I went to it wasn't his solo, it was all of them. But maybe it was like a reunion or something. Who knows, right? But it was all of them. It was in LA. I don't know if it was the Staples Center at that time. Like, I don't know when they changed names, and it's been a couple of different things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, it was LA. My aunt took me to LA and the concert and Michael Jackson. And I mean, we were really far away. We were not close at all. We were like nosebleeds, I think.
Right,
but,
right. Yeah, so that was probably I think early 80s is when
it had to have been.
I think it was the Victory tour, maybe
maybe because I'm born in 76, so if I was elementary school, we're in the 80s now.
Yeah.
So that's my first concert, first artist that I really, really remember.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really top that. Like, that's a big deal.
No, that's
the first concert, Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember music like growing up in the car, like you said, listening to the car, and like we had, or in the house, we had Beatles on. My mom's a huge Beatles fan. Beatles, ABBA.
Oh, nice.
Lionel Richie.
Okay.
Journey and Foreigner.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I guess they call it classic rock now, right?
I guess, yeah, which makes us feel old, but all that stuff. What I like about all that stuff is it stands up. I can listen to Foreigner or Journey today and be like, this still's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, or Lionel Richie. You can never go wrong with Lionel Richie.
I literally was listening to Lionel Richie. I have XM radio, so I get kind of random stuff, right? And so I was listening to it, and a Lionel Richie song came on, and I was like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah, totally.
And then I'm like, oh my gosh, Danielle, it's Lionel Richie. Like, I literally was really appreciating the song, and I was like, oh man, this is a good song.
Yeah.
Now I'm officially old because I just was really appreciating Lionel Richie. But well, my parents, I also grew up with, like, my dad would listen to, my mom worked on weekends, and my, we had, I had chores. I remember it was me and my dad on Saturdays, and we would do chores around the house and stuff. And he would put on the Pointer Sisters almost every time. Or
nice.
Something. The Pointer Sisters, like, that's a good time, man. I remember dancing around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying, what's that song? Slow Hand, and shoot, I'm trying to think. What was that most popular Pointer Sisters song they had? Was the
Jump? No.
Jump. Yeah.
Is it Jump?
Yeah. Jump in.
Yeah. Good song. Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that I really remember that. That's my childhood.
Do you remember, back to Michael Jackson? Do you remember? A lot of people don't remember this. Do you remember? I don't remember what year it was. It must have been early 2000s. But when NSYNC was performing on, was it the VMAs or something? And they had the neon sign in the background on the stage. It said "Kings of Pop."
Oh, I don't remember it. I don't really remember it.
Oh, it was epic. And so they're dancing around, they're singing. All of a sudden, the music stops, and the S in Kings goes and like goes out, and then this elevator thing comes up from the back, and Michael's in there. That's and he's just kind of looking at him like, "Kings of Pop, what?"
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It was
I'm gonna
awesome.
have to look that up on YouTube because that probably was amazing.
Yeah, it was during the NSYNC's Celebrity album. I think the song they were doing was Pop, that Dirty Pop.
Oh, Pop, yeah. Dirty Pop, yeah.
So
I do remember Michael Jackson and Britney Spears doing something like that.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because remember that was like when there was those accusations that like a piece of his nose flew off during the performance. Obviously,
I don't remember that either.
I'm sure it's not the skin, but maybe he had like a prosthetic situation.
Like Humpty Hump.
Yeah, and like it was. I don't really remember, but it was a Britney Spears Michael Jackson
interesting
collab. So
okay.
I like that word, collab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael Jackson was huge.
Yeah, he's a big one.
Yeah.
So then fast forwarding to like today, do you have a specific genre that you tend to lean toward? It sounds like most of the things you just mentioned were kind of pop singers.
I'm 100% pop. Like,
okay.
I mean, yes, everyone likes a little bit of everything, right? And blah, blah, blah. I hate when people say that. It's so cliche.
Yeah.
Okay, you're like, okay, just because you like 2 country songs, that doesn't mean that you like country.
Right.
But okay. Yeah. So no, I read something one time. I don't know if this is true, but I feel like it rings true to my life. Mm-hmm. The music that you liked in middle school tends to be what you follow through the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Which I'm like 100%. That's my whole life. Yeah. Pop yes. I will even admit that I probably like terrible pop music. I understand it's like auto-tuned most of the time.
Yeah.
The lyrics are stupid a lot of the time. I don't really listen to music for the lyrics, I would have to say. I'm not one of those that listens to it and is like analyzing what it could mean.
Okay.
I think half the time I don't even know what they're saying.
Right.
It's for the beat and how it makes
Okay.
me feel. And like if I'm driving, I want to bop around and
Right.
hands up in the air and be,
Yeah.
pop.
Oh, you're that guy, huh?
I am. I mean, I try to stop when people drive next to me,
Yeah.
but I am. Yes. But yes, do I like a couple of country songs? Yes, but it's always the poppy ones,
Yeah, it's funny how that's become cliche because there was a time like when we were like probably junior high age around there where people didn't say that. They never said I like a little bit of everything. It was always, oh, I'm a heavy metal guy, I'm a country guy, I'm a hip hop guy or whatever. It was always just like one genre. And then somewhere like when I was probably 8th grade, probably after that, probably maybe sophomore, junior in high school when bands like Limp Bizkit and what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank.
like Nickelback or like
Well, just like bands that were kind of melding genres, right? Like you had like Limp Bizkit was like rap rock. It's like, wait a minute, this guy's it's heavy metal guitars, but he's rapping and then he's screaming and then it's like, what is this? Like this is cool, And then you had bands like Linkin Park come out, and I know like Kid Rock's early stuff was similar to that, and so it really started to kind of. And it wasn't until like after high school when I would start using that term and say, oh, I like pretty much everything. But even then I still said I like everything but country.
Right.
And,
I like that. Like I tend to like poppy songs of country. Like I don't like old country. Like Johnny Cash. Absolutely not.
Oh, see, that's the kind I like.
No, like I absolutely not. Cannot do that kind of stuff. Willie Nelson. Oh, no.
Wow.
So
you're hurting my feelings.
I know I can't do it. But okay, yeah, I don't like heavy metal as a whole.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Some hip hop I do like. I'm a Tupac fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Tupac fan. I think
your favorite rapper of all time?
I mean, I don't listen to a lot of rap. So
But what you've heard, he's your favorite?
I mean, probably. And I think it's because a lot of his songs have like an R&B backup.
Yeah.
So like he'll rap. I don't like gangster rap.
Right.
But he'll have the R&B kind of flow in the back. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
Like I was not a Notorious B.I.G. fan.
Yeah, he's touch and go for me.
But there's, then they say East Coast, West Coast.
Right.
I have no idea what that means besides the coasts, but I don't know how but I don't know how it differs. Like
there's a definite difference.
Coast and East Coast, how they differ, right? And which I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I do like P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or whatever, Sean Combs.
Whatever he's going by today.
Yes, yeah. I do like his. I don't know if I care for him as a person, which whatever, but
yeah,
I do like his stuff because it's kind of. It's not really rap, right? It's
kind of singy. Yeah, like do you remember when he did that song from the Godzilla soundtrack where he was like screaming and yelling and
no,
it was with the guy from Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page,
it
and it was a Led Zeppelin riff. It was like dun-dun-dun, 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 and he's like dun, 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 and he was totally like he was like rapping, but he was like scream rapping, and I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, this is kind of neat,
Yeah. I mean, I liked the stuff that he would do with like, when after, Biggie died, he did that song with like Faith Evans and all of them. And I kind of
I'll be missing
that.
you.
Yeah. I'll, like that vibe. Like that's the vibe that I like, but it's poppy, right?
Right. Cause the chorus has usually the female vocalist. It's like if you just play just the chorus, it would sound like a pop song.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, if we're talking about rap, like I am an Eminem fan.
Okay.
Only because I think some of his lyrics, and no, don't ask me what lyrics because I do not know, but I think sometimes when I hear his lyrics, I'm like, he's actually kind of smart about his lyrics.
Oh,
like,
he's totally, yes.
Yeah, I feel like he's really smart about it. Now, I may not always like the sound of the song all the time because it's very rappy. There's most of the time not any R&B or poppy stuff in some of them, but in the background.
He's done a few songs with like Rihanna and
like that. Good, great song. Love Rihanna. But I do like Eminem in that way, that I think he's a genius songwriting wise.
Oh, totally. He's the
Yes.
best. I think he's the best. I don't think anybody's been able to top him.
Right.
And
So-
I think he's intelligent even when he's writing lyrics that are like over the top offensive.
Right.
Like he took what you had like early days of like NWA and stuff that were writing songs like F the Police and stuff like that. It was like, okay, that's offensive for the time.
Right.
But Eminem came out and he's talking about killing his wife and throwing her in the trunk and like all this crazy stuff like that rappers hadn't really said. And I'm not saying I agree with that message in any way, but he was intelligent in the fact that he was grabbing people's attention. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't really going to kill his ex-wife and all that.
Right.
Like that was all just so he could put it in the song, you know, or talking
Right.
about ripping Pamela Lee's boobs off and all that stuff in that one song. It's like, who says that stuff, right?
But
Nobody
he can do it
until
well.
him.
Like he can
Right.
find things that rhyme. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's crazy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And yeah. So, I mean, I think even now I like his earlier stuff better, of course, but I think even now the stuff he puts out is still good.
I think he's very smart about it.
Right.
Yes. So that's why I like him more so than I don't like a lot of the sound of the music necessarily, but I think he's just
Okay.
really, really smart. So I can respect that.
Okay.
So
he's one you like more lyrically than musically.
yes, I would say that. That's a good way of
Okay.
putting it. I do like Dr. Dre. Old stuff though. Like I don't even know if he put stuff out, but like some of the collabs that he's done with Eminem and then like some
Right.
old stuff. But again, it's got like certain beats to it that like it's just good. But lyrically, I don't know. I'm not even sure I know any of the lyrics. But
Right.
like the beat sounds good and
Yeah. Well, you know, 1, 2, 3 into the foe.
yes, well for sure. Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
probably couldn't karaoke it by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're probably referring to more like the Chronic, like when the Chronic
Yeah.
came out, that album with Nothing But a G Thing and
Yes.
Let Me Ride and all that on there. And
Yeah.
that was hit. I remember that. Was that 92, 93, something like that? I remember
And
when it first came out.
think
I
that
was
I
like,
probably
oh,
liked it. I probably liked more of the stuff like later than when it was actually popular and it was
Okay.
like showing up on the radio station still a few years later. Then I felt like I liked it a little
Yeah.
bit more. But again, most of it's for like the beats and the sound. It's not even
Right.
about the lyrics for me. Like half the time I can't understand anything or I don't understand how it's being put together, what kind of message it's sending. I have no
right.
idea.
Well, plus you probably
it's
don't really relate to the lyrics because it's not like you're growing up in the hood and you
Right.
know anything like that. You know,
No, yeah. But you know, back in the day when like I was driving Danny's truck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good sound system, or then when I had my Honda and it had the good speakers. I don't even
Right.
know what I was playing as long as it sounded good and the speakers, like it was
Yeah.
great.
When he had so much bass in there, you could barely hear the lyrics anyway.
For sure. That's always
I was like, it's like, dude. But you know, it's so funny because we were driving the other day, or maybe a couple months ago now, and I was with Addie, and somebody drove by, bumping, like just rattling, just
Yeah.
and she goes, "I don't know, Dad. Why do people do that? That's so dumb."
It is dumb.
And I'm like, "Hey, Dad, we used to do that. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
Yeah. Or
You
when
know?
you spend more on your stereo system than your car.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
$2,000 car, $5,000 stereo system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Horrible. Oh my gosh.
So good.
Okay. So in the realm of pop music, which I mean, that's a pretty broad.
It is very broad.
It can be broad, but when people say pop, I think to myself, kind of like pop R&B, like, because you had the 90s, right? You had all those awesome, like, you know, Keith Sweat and Shy
Oh my
and
God.
Silk.
I miss him so much.
Yeah. I mean,
Friday
there's-
McKnight. Oh,
yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh,
Stuff
so
like
good.
that. Early
Yeah.
Boys to Men, all that. Like, you're
Oh, yeah,
never
so
going to
good.
get that again,
No.
as far as I'm concerned. But then you look at a lot of the newer ones to come out, like with Rihanna and Beyonce and like some of the, you know, Usher, you know, kind of
Oh, I do
the
love
early
Usher.
early 2000s. But I mean, do you have a preference, or is it just all the same to you? Do you think the music has gotten worse or better over the years? Like compared to like when you were
I mean,
in high school?
I think that like, I don't think I would ever say it's gotten better, but you know, I think you're not objective, right? You have this love of music from the 90s. It's like your childhood. It's like
Right.
in your body, right? Because you grew up listening to it. I think that even technically, if it got better, we wouldn't look at it as better than what we grew up with because it's just.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know,
Yes.
I don't think you can ever think that.
Yes, because you've already had the experience,
Yes.
and you can't erase it, right? And something you said a minute ago, I was going to go into, because we talked about it many times on the show before, but it seems like whenever that prime time of life, whether it's 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever that year that you just look back on and you miss. Right. I think about like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite. You know, he's always trying to get back to like, oh, okay, well, can't use the reference then. He's always trying to go back to his prime of life. Like, oh man, I want to go back to 82, or I forgot what the year was.
Yeah.
But it's like we all have that time, and it seems like, I know I feel this way, and it seems like all the guests that I've had on here tend to pick that time as their favorite time for music. But I think a big part of it is because of the time, like what you're dealing with. You have, you know, maybe your first boyfriend, first girlfriend, you have things happening with your friends, you're in school. Like, it's just this time that you capture in your mind, and all those songs go with it. That's true.
Yes.
But I've never had anybody say it the way you just did, which is perfect, because you can't be objective.
Right.
Because your mind has already been like taken over with that, and you can't erase those memories. You know what I mean? So you can't view it with a fresh slate, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think when I hear older songs that from that time on the radio, and I'm driving around, I am happier when I hear those, as opposed to hearing a new song that maybe even I really like it. It doesn't hit the same.
Right.
It just doesn't feel the same.
Right.
But I like a lot of the, oh gosh, you said Keith Sweat, man.
Yeah.
I listen again because that was, I love Keith Sweat so much.
Oh yeah. He's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. But you know, that was like high school, just after high school, when it was like a good time. Yeah. But like newer artists, you know, I listened to a part of Alora's episode yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
a lot of Taylor Swift talk on there.
A lot of Taylor Swift talk, which I can appreciate. I love Taylor Swift as an artist and as a human, as a songwriter.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say I'm a Swiftie, only because I think to be a Swiftie and you get that name, it comes with certain responsibilities.
Right.
Like it comes with like a Laura level responsibilities, right? Like she knows the songs and she knows the people and whatever. And I can't, I know more about Taylor Swift than a lot of people my age, especially.
Yeah. Is Jocelyn a fan, or?
She's a fan. She's a Swiftie. I would say she's a Swiftie.
Okay.
Yes, I would say she's a Swiftie.
All right.
I took one of Jocelyn. I think Jocelyn's first concert was Taylor Swift. I took her to the Speak Now.
Oh, dang. That was a while back.
It was a while back. Yeah, we went to the Moda in Portland.
Okay. Yeah. I've been there. Is that where we saw NF?
Yes.
Moda, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I think that was her first concert.
Speak Now. Sure. So that was still like in the country phase, kind of.
Speak Now. You think? Yeah. Well, I actually
poppy country, but country, you know.
So Ian was born in 2006, 2007 or 8. I went and saw Rascal Flatts. I don't. Okay, again, poppy, sometimes a little too country.
Yeah.
I like some of their songs. I don't really know how I got wrapped up in going to a concert, because it's not usually my thing unless I really, really enjoy something. But whatever, I probably went with friends and we're like, oh yeah, let's just go. Come to find out, Taylor Swift opened for them.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so Taylor Swift opened for them. And I didn't know who she was at the time. And that was Picture to Burn, right? It was her first album.
First album. Yeah.
Picture to Burn. You should have said
Teardrops on My Guitar.
Yeah. And I remember we were pretty far, so I couldn't really like see this kid up on the stage. Literally what it was. This child with very long blonde to curly hair.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, dang, this girl's good. Like
she's gonna go places.
I'm not sure I went that far with it, but I was like, oh, she rocked it out. Like, and you know, that was an opener. She had like no big thing. It was like drums and a guitar, and like it was just this tiny little situation, right?
Yeah. She probably only got maybe 5-6 songs they gave her time for, probably.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, she's very enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
She's talented. She's fun, and she's so cute, you know?
Yeah.
I had no idea who she was.
That's awesome.
And then obviously years later, and I was like, oh wait, I saw that kid. Like, Rascal Flatts came on after, and they came on after, which was obviously the headliner. And
right.
I remember thinking, oh, this is like on the radio.
Yeah.
Like they just stand there and they sing. There's
That's
nothing.
just funny,
exciting.
man. These days, I bet Rascal Flatts probably can't even get tickets to her concert.
No problem. So yeah, it's crazy. That was a crazy experience.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That
I
I
was
more impressed with her than them. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And I like Rascal Flatts. I was at work the other night. I deliver pizzas a couple nights a week now for extra money, and almost everybody I work with is like between the ages of like 18 and 24.
Yes.
Right. So it's all these young kids. I'm the old guy that works there, which is fun.
Which is true. Yeah.
I have fun with them and stuff. But I was talking to one of the guys there a couple nights ago, and he mentioned Rascal Flatts, and he was talking about life is a highway from the Cars movie. Yeah, right. And I'm like, okay. I said, you do know that that's not their song, though, right? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, that's a cover song. I said, that song came out in the 90s. It was like Tom Cochran, I think, or somebody, right? Yeah. And he's like, what? And I was like,
no, that red car guy the red car in Cars sang it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh my gosh, too funny, man. So let's talk a little more about, like, give me like maybe 4 or 5 of your favorites from the 90s pop stars, and then like 4 or 5 from like current day. If you can give me that many. I don't know how you feel about current day music.
Let's start with current day, because I can probably respond to that a little faster.
Okay.
I would say my top 5 favorite artist band is Maroon 5.
Okay.
Since forever, like since they came out. Well, maybe their second album, because they weren't as popular.
Hey, hang on real quick. Have you seen? We watched a movie last night called Family Switch.
Oh, it's on my queue to watch. I'm going to make my kids watch it with me.
Okay. There's a Maroon 5 reference. So
okay, good.
I'm not going to spoil it for you, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'm excited to watch it.
It's a great movie, by the way. Fantastic movie.
Oh, good. I already told Ian, don't watch it without me.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah. Okay, Maroon 5 is probably top number 1.
Okay.
I would say Taylor Swift is in the top 5.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Maybe I don't have like. I mean, I do like Rihanna, but there's a lot of songs I don't like of hers, but there's a lot of songs I do. Like, it's kind of hit and miss. You mentioned Olivia Rodrigo.
I did?
I do like her.
You mean in Alora's episode?
Well, I think I thought you kind of mentioned it, like we were talking about pops.
I don't remember.
Anyways, okay.
So Olivia Rodrigo.
Like, it's hard for me to say top 5. I don't know. Like, throw some bands out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, see, when it comes to modern, I'm out. Like, there's very few. There's a couple new ones, like and they're usually shown to me by like Alora or Qin or Aiden or somebody, right? Like, but like 21 Pilots is one that they've been around for a while now, but that's one of the newer bands that are still putting stuff out today that I like. That's kind of pretty poppy. There's a singer named Alec.
I like them okay, but I don't love them.
21 Pilots?
Yeah, it's just fine.
They're the best of all time. There's no debate.
I mean, no, not more than Keith Sweat. So, I mean, come on. Yeah.
But then there's another singer, Alec Benjamin. Are you familiar with Alec Benjamin?
See, that's a different pop vibe.
Yeah, and it's not really pop either. I guess it's just kind of singer songwriter, kind of like it's just him and his guitar, and he just kind of writes these.
Speaking of, I do love Ed Sheeran.
Okay, yeah, so similar to that.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Like, oh yeah, singer and a guitar, Ed Sheeran, yeah.
Yeah,
I do like Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
Lady Gaga. I forget about her. Oh my gosh, brilliant.
So I finally was when people put on an outward show, it always makes me think you must have nothing really to offer in the talent department. It's the same as when I see musical artists that have to have, like, on the album cover, they have to be half naked, or they have to perform in a G-string, or they have to do all this stuff. I think if you were a really good singer, you wouldn't have to do that, right? So when Lady Gaga first came out, and she was doing she's wearing a meat dress or whatever, it's like, what are you doing? And I never really gave her a chance.
Right.
And then when a couple of the movies from that, what's the movie with Bradley Cooper, Born? Born something, right?
A Star is Born.
Star is Born.
Okay.
And a couple of the songs from that came out.
Yeah.
And I even saw her perform one of them live, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's got a good voice.
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I kind of felt like, funny story is I saw her in concert also.
Wow.
Which is crazy because
you get to a lot of concerts for somebody who just said they don't go to a lot of concerts.
I know. I was just thinking that. I was like, wow, I've said I've gone to this concert about 5 times now.
Yeah.
I guess I have. I am choosy. I'm very choosy. Where some people go to a lot of concerts, they'll see anyone local, whatever. I'm very choosy.
Yeah.
Pink. Put that in my top.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Anyways, Gaga. So a long time ago, we're talking 15 years ago. 15 years ago. I worked with a girl and we would commute because she lived in Vancouver and we were commuting to Portland like maybe twice a week. So we got really, chatty and friendly. And one day she literally texted me and said, hey, I've got an extra Lady Gaga concert ticket. I just kind of need someone to go with. Are you interested? And I'm like, oh, I like 2 of her songs. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
And so I went with her and it was it Fame Monster or Fame or I don't even know what album, honestly.
That's the one like Poker Face is on that one, I think. And
probably. Yeah, I'm not even sure.
I think that's her first album, I think.
So the concert was amazing because she's a performer,
Right.
And it was like a theatrical event.
Okay.
Like it almost was like a story with characters and
oh wow.
It almost like had a beginning, middle, end. You could kind of see it kind of play out that way.
Yeah.
Plus the songs are great. And I was just kind of in awe. And I was like, okay, I'm a fan. I'm a fan for life, right? And so then I obviously started listening to more of her music and I'm like, no, I really like her, which has just continued to transpire, especially with the movie. She was doing like, I don't know if you saw any of her recordings or events with like when she was like with Tony Bennett.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously she looked, and I did watch her documentary on Netflix. I forgot what it was called, but it was
I didn't see that one.
It was right before she did Super Bowl. So it kind of was like the 6 months leading up to Super Bowl. And finding out that she has like fibromyalgia.
Oh, really?
Basically all the time.
Oh, she's too young for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people get it, but it's really painful and it affects everyday life. And seeing how hard she works with all the pain that she's in on a regular basis, always is very inspiring.
Right.
And that was amazing. And then that movie came out and that was even great, better music and just, I love Lady Gaga. Honestly.
I still haven't even seen that movie. I heard it was really good.
It's really good. It's very sad, but it's also a remake.
Of with Barbara Streisand was in the original, right?
I think so.
And she's terrible, so I probably couldn't watch the original.
No.
She might be the worst person on the planet as far as I'm.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
I know anything about Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, I know enough. I mean, I don't know everything, but what I do know, I'm not a fan. I don't.
Okay.
Like.
Well, there's no requirement to watch that one first.
Yeah.
It's not like a sequel.
Right.
You don't have to. It's okay.
It's a total remake, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very sad, and I think that if I would have known what it was really about, I would have taken a pass on it.
Oh, okay.
It's just sad in a lot of
bad,
ways.
huh?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's kind of deep, and sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Want to watch that or read about it or.
Is it like The Notebook sad, or is it like?
That's sad too.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
It's about addiction. And I feel like that's heavier than it's not just someone, people dying. It's about addiction. And so loving someone who has a problem.
So watching them struggle and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But a great movie, right?
Yeah. Well, see, I love those kind of movies. Like, I don't know. I like emotional movies. I like movies that are going to make me cry, that are going to make me angry, that are going to make me laugh. Like, I want to feel all the emotions in the movie. I don't want to just be like, that's why I'm not a huge fan of action movies unless they have a good story or a good something. You know what I mean? Like, we'll watch all the Marvel movies and stuff, but the ones I like the best are the ones that have like an emotion, like Captain America.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
So in the first Captain America, my favorite scene in that whole movie is when he's the little scrawny guy.
Yes.
And he can't get in, and they do the fake drill with the grenade,
Right.
And of all those strong guys, he throws himself on the grenade to save everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just
like
it
the
just hits me.
inspirational underdog,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
I'm like, the dude weighs 90 pounds and he was just willing to give his life to save the rest of you. Right. And like, you won't even let him in the military. It's like, come on. Yeah. So, I mean, stuff like that gets me. It's not the superhero powers and the fighting of the bad guys and all. It's like, that's okay. But it's like, you know,
I don't like to feel that many emotions in a movie. I think it makes me sad because, you know, a lot of that can be real life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the addiction stuff it's sad. And, you know, we all know people personally who have, you know, had problems and whatever. And I'm a lot more empathetic than I ever have been in my life. And I really just like to not see it.
Okay.
I don't know why, which is probably not the right way to be, but I'm like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's, but it was.
So you prefer like comedies then?
You know, I don't like a lot of comedy. I don't, I like criminal murder, whoodunit kind of stuff. Okay. Like people being murdered doesn't make me sad in the same way. No, you know, that's not true exactly. But like that stuff, like movies that are like whodunits and you know, stuff like that, that doesn't make me serial killers. Okay, I get that's very sad for their families, but like, you know, it's not sad to me in the same way like addiction, homeless stuff, just stuff that like, I think it's because it's so real life. Right. I just don't want to think about people going through those things. And
yeah, and I think that's the difference maybe between watching a movie like, to throw it way back, like Seven or something, like where you have the serial killer. It's a great movie, but you know it's not real.
Right.
But then like if you read a book or you listen to a true crime podcast where this guy was real, like he really did these things. Like, so do you listen to like true crime? Are you into that or?
I don't listen to really any podcasts. And here's why. One, I'm not in the car that long anymore. So it's not a car thing for me, which when I was commuting, I kind of tried to dabble in it a little bit, but my commute ended not long after I kind of started trying. I have to listen to podcasts and to take it all in. I can't do anything else. So it's not like I can like, oh, I'm going to clean the house while I listen to this. Or,
but you're a woman. You're supposed to be able to multitask.
I know I can in a lot of ways, but apparently that's not one of them. Okay. And so I want to, in order to take in like, you know, like a story, someone's life story about what happened to them or whatever, I have to just listen to that. Well, how often do you just sit there in a chair and stare at the wall and like listen to a story, right?
I never do that.
Right.
Like never. But I listen to podcasts all day. Like I'm at work, I'm allowed to have an earbud in.
Right. Yeah.
And I can do it while I'm doing busy work. I can listen to the story or whatever. But
well, and I wish I could at work, but a lot of the times I'm trying to like draft documents where I have to like read and write and whatever. And so I can't, I just can't. It's not something I can do. I can listen to music because it's probably songs I've heard about a million times and I don't really care about the lyrics anyways, right?
Right. You don't have to focus as hard. So
I can't, I don't do the podcast thing. I will watch a lot of, I don't like documentaries, but I do like reenactments.
Okay.
Documentaries have too many interviewing things that I don't care about. I want to see a reenactment, probably because I grew up watching Lifetime movies that were like based on a true story, right?
Right.
And I can watch that about certain full things and stuff, but
it's
sure that stuff is sad, man, especially when it comes to like losing your kids. I can't do it.
It's exactly. Yeah, and that's the hardest thing because I listen to a lot of true crime and those are always the hardest ones because
kids.
You know, and it sounds bad to say this, but you know, you listen to some of them and it's like, and we're investigating the murder of Sally James or something or whatever, to throw a name out there. And then as they start to talk about her, and she was a prostitute that was known to frequent this area. We know she had a heroin addiction and she was selling crack and all this. And I'm not saying her life doesn't matter. Right. But that's part of me goes, it's not surprising that you were murdered. Like you're in that lifestyle.
You're putting yourself into a situation.
Right.
Not safe.
Yes. You probably have people trying to kill you all the time. You know, that's just the life you're in. Yeah. But it's the podcast I listen to where it's like some small little town. There's never been any murders in it. And it's just
like John
happy.
Bonet? Like John
Yes. Bonet. Stuff like that. Exactly. This happy little family or whatever.
Right.
And all of a sudden their kid gets abducted and found in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah.
Raped and murdered. It's like, what? Like,
yeah,
dude, I just can't even imagine going through it.
I totally get what you're saying. I don't like when they're like, this child was maybe I should more say like person, maybe older child, but was an angel and they got straight A's and they were amazing in every way and they were everybody's friend. And I'm like, come on.
Which is all crap and you know
it. You know it's crap.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to say, oh, my kid was a jerk.
Right.
For lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
And not saying that they would deserve to die. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, come on.
Well, I think there's almost like this naivety with parents sometimes where it's like,
oh, for sure.
You know, if there's like a case where, I don't know, she ends up having a boyfriend who's 19 and she's 16 or 17 and the parents are on the news going, oh, and he raped her because she would never do. It's like, really? That's where we're jumping right to rape.
Right.
It couldn't be that maybe your daughter was in a consensual relationship with this guy.
Right.
Like, come on.
Right. Yes.
So, but anyway. All right. Well, that was a fun little detour from music.
I know, yeah.
That was that's what I do, by the way. I just my mind just goes boom, boom, and then we go all over the place, which makes it fun. So keep you on your toes. All right. So we talked about some top fives.
Current ones, right?
Current ones, yeah. So we had so let's go to maybe some older ones then.
Older ones, okay.
Like 90s kind of early high school years.
Like we touched on Keith Sweat for sure, right?
Okay. Yep.
Sweat for sure. Boys to Men 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, oh gosh, Paula Abdul.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
That's Bethany's favorite.
That might have been that's what?
That's Bethany's favorite.
Oh, really? Paula Abdul?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would have to say I might have had like a girl crush on her. I don't know.
Okay.
Like I had a poster of her on my wall and I wanted to be her so bad. And like,
oh, I had a girl crush on her too, except I was a boy. So
yes. Yeah.
It's probably called a boy crush at that point.
I think it's just called the crush at that time. Yeah. Yes. No, she was like the be all end all. I had the Reeboks. She put out Reeboks or something.
Nice.
Had them. Yes. Paula Abdul was huge, but then you've got Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, which I could appreciate, but I wouldn't say they were top 5. Paula Abdul 100%.
Okay.
Boys to Men, Keith Sweat. That's all I can think of right now. Brian McKnight was there. I saw him in concert also.
Was that with Boys to Men?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I think it was him on his own.
Because didn't Danny go with you to that show? Or
yeah, that was our first anniversary.
Okay, I was gonna say I feel like that was pretty early on in your relationship.
Yeah, we went to Oakland.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Okay, looking back,
yeah,
maybe not our best decision. Okay.
Was it just the two of you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
And like we stayed in a hotel down there because you have to stay the night, right?
Yeah.
We stayed in a hotel down there, and I recall walking quite a distance from the hotel to whatever venue. I don't even know what it was. It's so long ago. And being a little nervous about it. And
I bet.
I can tell you we didn't have hardly any money. So I cannot even imagine what the hotel room looked like or where they were, where it was. Yeah. I can't imagine it was great, but I don't remember.
Okay.
It was probably scary. I can tell you.
But was the show good?
I was 21 years old and around Oakland by myself, or basically.
Yeah, that's
a good concert though. Good concert. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's all I can think of off the top.
Okay. Yeah, because there was a bunch of like one hit wonders from the 90s, like soul R&B. Like what came on my. So I have playlists on my. I don't do Spotify and Pandora, none of that, either. Right? Yeah.
I listened to you and Alora talking about it, and I'm like,
yeah.
I also don't do Spotify.
Good. I'm glad there's someone else in the world that doesn't. But I mean, I will still buy CDs. Even if I buy MP3s, I'll put them on a CD and make a cover and the whole thing. Like, I'm just like, I got to have that. And then I put all those on in my iTunes library. And then those just transfer to my phone. So I have my entire thousands of songs all on my phone all the time. I got a terabyte of memory on purpose so I could fit my entire library on there. But the other day I just had it on shuffle.
Oh gosh.
And Tevin Campbell came on.
Oh, so good.
Right? Remember him? Yeah. I was like, oh man, was it tell me what you want me to do?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Such a good song. That was Tevin Campbell, I think. Tell me what you want me to do.
I don't know. Like I can see that cover of that album in my head.
Yeah, with the big T, and he's like leaning up against it.
Yes, and he's like dressed all like fancy.
Yeah, he's like in a suit.
Yes. I don't think I could name one of his songs, but I totally remember that.
Yeah, it's that one. Can you see it?
Definitely One Hit Wonder. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that song. Just tell me what you want me to do is the song. But yeah, there's so many of those. Like, just like, I mean, he's not a one-hit wonder. He had a few popular songs, but
I mean, it's close.
You know, there's groups like Boys to Men that had 15, 16 really popular singles, and then Keith Sweat, same thing. He's got a bunch that we all know. But then there was bands like that. It was like, oh yeah, he had one or two songs that were really good, but those one or two songs were great. Or like you look at like New Edition. And all the guys that came out of that, right? Like Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant, Johnny Gill, you know, it's like Belle Biv DeVoe. Yeah. I mean, all those guys were just phenomenal. And I remember that Michael Jackson's Bad was like one of the first tapes I got. Like I said, I think Bobby Brown's Don't Be Cruel was probably the next one I got.
I liked a couple of his songs. I never really got into him, but I did like a couple of his songs. Yes. Yeah.
So good. All right. So, what about like most recently? I mean, and most recently, which could mean 20 years ago, it could mean yesterday, but just the most recently that you really got into a band or an artist, you know, to the point like you heard a song and you're like, oh, I have to hear everything they ever did. I don't know if you do that or not. I do that. Like if I hear one, I'm like, okay, I got to get everything.
I don't do it to that extent. I don't listen to a lot of music, and I think it's because I don't really have it on in the house, like when I'm home, not for any particular reason. I just don't. And my commute is now like I drive 3 miles to work.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm out of the car like a ton.
Yeah.
So I don't do a lot of that, but I would have to say that the artists that I have like the most, that I enjoyed most of their music, or I bought like all their CDs, is Maroon 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say in my top favorite songs, I think one of their songs is probably in the top 3 of the top 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get into those in a minute. Top 5 songs. So Maroon 5, you might be surprised by this, you might not. I couldn't tell you a single song by them.
Oh my!
All I know of Adam Levine is when he was a coach on The Voice.
Oh, that's
like all I know. Yeah. And even then, I didn't even know he was the singer for Maroon 5. I had no idea. What? Yeah, I don't know. Maroon 5 was one of those bands when they first started, like late 90s, early 2000s. I remember hearing the name when they came out.
Probably late, yes. Okay. I think that I was not into them until probably after. There's a lot of it's like after Ian was born, you know. So I would
Which he's
say,
what, 19, 18, 19 now?
He's 17.
17, okay.
Yeah, so he was born in 2006. I remember going to one of Maroon 5's concert, which was not even their first CD. It was probably 1 or 2, so we're like 7 or 8. I know that Maroon 5 used to be like a couple, Adam Levine, and then like a couple different people, and I think they were called something else. It wasn't Maroon 5 quite yet, and I think they have a CD there. Like, I mean, I think I started at one CD, went back a little bit, and then went forward a little bit, if that makes sense.
Because they started as more of like a rock band, right? And then they kind of morphed into like a more poppy, or
maybe, I don't know a lot of their early stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I'm not sure.
The only album I can remember in my, I have a picture of it in my mind. It was like a red or a gold kind of thing. It was like a drawing. It was like almost like was there a face in there? It looked like a bunch of like wavy, like, I don't even remember. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I don't even know if that was an early album or if that was a later one. Like I said, I know nothing. So
that actually might be the Songs About Jane. That would have been one of the earliest. I don't know a lot on that CD other than jumping in advance to your question.
Yeah.
Sunday Morning is probably one of my all-time favorite songs.
Sunday Morning?
Yes, by Maroon 5. And so I think that is on the Songs About Jane CD, but I'm not sure I really know much other than that from that CD.
So if you were to, if I was going to start and I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to really get into some Maroon 5, see if I like it.
Right.
What album do you suggest I start with?
I think it's called 5. It's like a V, like.
Okay.
I think
Roman numerals.
M. Maybe it looks like an M. Oh, it's an M.
Okay.
In the middle. I think it's like called 5 or something. I don't ever know album names.
Okay.
I can see the picture in my head.
But that's the cover. It shows an M and a V.
It's like an M, and it's kind of like blackish and grayish color.
Yeah. Which probably the M is for Maroon.
Yeah.
And the V is the Roman numeral for
Oh,
5.
you're right. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
See? Look at that.
Yeah.
Enlightenment.
Yes, you're right. That probably is what it is.
Okay, so I'll check that one out. M5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I never know albums. I never know like what songs are then on what albums. I kind of just know like what's on the radio, and then I'll kind of look into it a little bit further. But I just don't dive very deep down. I have seen them in concert multiple times.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, how much of that is like, obviously, just like every other woman in the world, I'm sure you find Adam Levine very attractive. So are you attracted more to that or more to the music or both? It's kind of the same package, or like, what's the deal?
I think I actually liked their music more than I thought that he was cute at first.
Okay.
Only because I don't think I really knew what he looked like a ton, or, whatever. I wasn't seeing him on a whole lot of stuff necessarily.
Okay. So the music came first for you. It wasn't like you saw a picture of him and you're like, oh, what band's that guy in?
Right. I need to like them. Yeah. No, it was the music first for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw them in concert at the amphitheater in Ridgefield, which I'm not sure if you've been to that when you've been here to visit.
Nope.
It has some like undercover assigned seating, but it's an amphitheater, so it has a lot of like the grass area. The tickets are usually on the cheaper side, back in the day it was probably like $30, $35.
So it's outdoor venue?
Outdoor, yeah. But some are covered, but yes.
Okay.
And so, here in the Northwest, you don't go to concerts there a lot because you're soaking wet. Yeah. Yeah.
You think every venue would be enclosed up
Inside,
there.
I know, right? So I think that I maybe knew like maybe 1 or 2 songs, but I think a group of us decided to go to the concert because that's where they were performing. And I felt like I liked everything that they did at the concert.
Okay.
So it's one of those, like, you go to the concert, you don't really know them, but I really like all this music. Now let me get involved with them. I think it was kind of that way. Yeah.
So it's by accident almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So let's go over these. If you can give me these top 5 songs, I'm pretty impressed if you can do that, by the way. I don't think anybody's been able to do that yet.
So Sunday Morning for sure.
And that's Maroon 5.
That's Maroon 5.
Okay.
There's an Elton John song. Is it Tiny Dancer? I do love Elton John's Tiny Dancer.
Okay.
Just sounds random, right?
Yeah. No, I love Elton John. I think Elton John is one of the most talented songwriters ever. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. Maybe I can't give you the top 5.
You will later when you're off of here. You'll think about it later and be like, I should have said that one.
I'll text you.
Yeah, there you go.
And instead of editing something out, edit that in.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
By the way, Danielle said, I don't know now.
Okay.
Gosh, but Sunday Morning is definitely top 5.
Well, let's do this then. We'll finish out the music section with this. I'm going to read through some of the groups and bands that you mentioned as your favorites. And if you can do it, just give me 2 or 3 of your favorite songs from them. If you can't, that's fine too. I'll text you later and get, because I'll put those all on the playlist.
Okay.
So the first one was Maroon 5. So you already said Sunday Morning.
This is going to be too hard of a game, Ryan. This is a hard game.
I know. Most people struggle with this. I've had some people just rattle them off like nothing. Like 2 or 3, I can give you 8 or 9. You want 8 or 9? No, just 2 or 3 is good.
It's good. I cannot. I don't think I can do it.
Well, we got 1. That's good.
Okay.
How about Taylor Swift?
Oh, that's hard.
It is hard.
All Too Well.
Okay.
All Too Well. And Our Song, which is like old Taylor.
That's an old one, yeah.
Old Taylor. I thought there was one more, but I may not know what it is off the top of my head. But I would say that All Too Well is 100% hands down, no question. The 10-minute version.
Yeah. I think that's Alora's favorite song. All Time by Taylor Swift too.
Yeah, it's good. It's good song.
Okay. And then Olivia Rodrigo.
You know what's funny is I like a couple of her songs. Oh, that one that like she got criticized because it sounded like Paramore's song. Did you hear anything about that? You don't know anything?
No, I'm just now coming into Olivia. So Olivia Rodrigo, she was on a American Girl movie. And that was the first time I had ever seen. It was Grace or something. She was like an aspiring chef or something. It was one of the newer American Girl movies. And then like after that, overnight, it seemed like she's this huge pop star. And I'm like, what in the world? And
so that was before she did the High School Musical show?
Yes, that was that was probably a couple years before the High School Musical show. And then whatever that album Sour, she had that album Sour that came out. That
yes, I think really I know that one. Okay, so I listened to Pandora because that's how old I am. Okay. I can't get on the Spotify train, but Pandora is there for me. And I think I hear I'm so old to be saying these things. I listen to the Taylor Swift channel of Pandora. So I get a lot of Olivia Rodrigo, but I think most of the songs are from that Sour. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out what that song is. I was gonna try to look up the songs thinking it would come up really quickly. I do know I did. So I think I was telling Jocelyn that I liked one of her songs, and I think maybe she asked me, because we're going to her concert next year.
Oh, you are going in a year from now? Okay.
Yeah, next April maybe. Yeah. So we have tickets for Olivia Rodrigo next year, but it's the Vampire album, which I don't know anything about, right?
Is that new?
So I think the album's Vampire, Olivia Rodrigo's. That's her newest album is Vampire.
Newest one. Okay.
Yeah. So Jocelyn was asking me, do you even know any songs on that album? You're going to go to the concert, And I said, well, I'm obviously going to have to listen to the songs in practice so that I can.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. You should say, well, no, hon, but I'm going to learn them all so I can sing them at the top of my lungs right next to you.
100%. Yeah, that will happen. I'm letting you know that will happen. And so she, rolls her eyes at me because that's basically her response to me. All things. But I was listening to Pandora last week, and I was like, that my favorite Olivia Rodrigo song came on, and I was like, screenshot, right? It's from the High School Musical show.
Okay. What song is it?
It's called All I Want.
Yeah, I like that one.
You know it?
I do.
Oh yeah. It's good song, right?
Yeah. The only reason I know it is because I don't know if you've heard any of. Did you know Addie's been singing? Have you heard this?
No, huh?
I'll send you some when this is over.
That's so cute.
But she's kind of really like, it's shocking. Like she goes up in her bedroom and writes her own songs, records her own songs, comes down with 6 or 7 of them, says, Dad, this is like an album. Here's the cover I made. Put this on a CD for me. And it's like, and I'm listening to it but then she does covers. So anyway, my point is so she had recently gotten some song or some artist recommendations from some friends. And she's like, Dad, can you look up some songs by these people? Because she knows I'm going to have to approve or not approve or do whatever I got to do with. And that they've all been, there's like Olivia Rodrigo, a bunch of people I never heard of, Phoebe Bridgers.
Oh, I've heard the name. I have no idea. Good for you.
There's a bunch.
Good for you is Olivia song that I like.
Yes, I know that one too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. That's how I know these.
Okay, sorry. Yes.
No, that's how I know these is because I'm looking up songs that Addie's allowed to listen to.
Yeah.
And I'm buying them off the MP3 site and I'm putting them in and I'm getting them ready for her and all this. So the last batch was a bunch of ones, a bunch of those ones. It wasn't Olivia Rodrigo yet. That's the batch I'm working on right now, which is All I Want. I just heard literally like yesterday for the first time.
Oh, nice.
So it's funny that you had mentioned that. But
yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's a good song. But the other batch, there was a guy named Conan Gray.
I've heard the name. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I didn't. He's a guy singer, pop singer. They're all pop when Addie's in the pop music.
Yeah.
And but she did a cover of a song called Atmosphere, and that's what I'll send you that when we're done. But it's really good. So anyway, yes, I'm recently familiar with some of Olivia Rodrigo's songs.
Yeah. I'm not. Yes. I'm not super savvy. Oh, so the Good For You song I had to saw it and I was like, I have to interrupt you because I will forget it. That is the one that got some criticism because you've heard the band Paramore, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because they're old. right? They've been around a long time.
They've been around a while, then they went on hiatus, and they just recently came back, and it was a big deal. Yeah.
Okay. So I think, again, listening to your conversation with Alora, the mean girl genre of music.
Yeah.
I feel like is Paramore a little bit, right? Like it's.
Yeah, they kind of morphed. I think when they started, they were almost kind of like a poppy punk band, and then they kind of morphed later on. But
moody. Got a little moody. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so their song, and I don't remember what it's called, but there is like I don't know how music works. So like it's not the chorus, maybe it's a bridge, maybe it's like a certain amount of notes that sound like one of the Paramore songs is in that Good For You song.
Oh.
And that people kind of like, and there might have been some sort of, I don't know, lawsuit or copyright conversation of like, hey, this is, and I've heard it and I'm like, yeah, it sounds,
to me, that kind of stuff. I'm like, I think it depends on the motive. Like, I think if a person sits down and sets out to specifically copy somebody's song and then makes money off of it, that should not be okay. But for anybody who writes music to say that they're not influenced or they're not, I mean, nobody's really making anything original anymore. It's all, I've listened to all these artists. Now I'm going to make my own version of that style. Right. That's why when somebody does come out that sounds totally different, you're like, whoa, what's that? I never heard anything like that. Like when I first heard 21 Pilots, that was my thought. I thought to myself, I can't think of anybody that sounds like this, where the beats just change every 5 seconds, and he's singing. Now he's rapping. Now there's a drum solo. Now it's like, what is this? Like, this is really cool. Right. But that doesn't happen very often. Almost everyone else is like, revamping out of their influence. Right. And for somebody to say, oh no, I'm not influenced by, shut up. Right. Everybody's influenced by everything. Like, you can't not be influenced, Oh,
for sure.
So
I totally forgot Kelly Clarkson, Usher are probably in my top.
Okay.
Those people. How I forgot them, I have no idea.
All right, Kelly Clarkson, 2 or 3 songs, hit it.
Oh. I'm going to stop saying people I like, because then you're going to make me.
This is just to put you on the spot. Like I said, I'll text you and get these.
Actually, only because it's kind of fresh. One of my favorite songs by her is Mine.
Okay.
On her newest album after her divorce.
Okay.
And I love the lyrics are great, but the change in the music and the chorus.
Check it out. I don't think I've really heard anything by her. I remember when she was on, was it American Idol, right?
Also? Oh yes. I'm like, right? The Voice.
Like way back. Oh, was she on The Voice too as a coach? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Who was the coaches when it was Blake Shelton, Adam Levine, Gwen Stefani.
She wasn't the first one.
No.
Though.
Who was the blonde? It was a blonde singer.
Christina Aguilera.
Okay. Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
I can tell by the way you said that you're a huge fan.
I do not like her.
You have to admit she's talented, though.
To be fair, sure, she's got a great voice.
Yes, right.
Something about her, I don't even have a good reason, Ryan. It's just
I just don't like her face.
Honestly, I don't like Gwen Stefani either.
Yeah.
And I did not like No Doubt.
I love No Doubt.
I don't.
I thought her voice fit No Doubt. I do not like her pop music.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing remotely close to that I think I liked was the song she did with Eve way back in the day. Do you remember that? The rapper Eve?
Yes.
It was, oh man. I can't remember what the words were, but I have the melody in my head. Oh, it was a good song, but
Usher, my favorite song is Daddy's Home.
Okay.
Probably sounds really awful when you say it like that.
Well, depending. Is he talking about his kids or are you talking about his girlfriend?
Not his kids.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Good song. More just because it's dancey and, again, the lyrics I care about half the time. More than half the time.
No, Usher's great at making.
Oh, Usher's been good for so long.
Like,
I love a lot of his work. A lot. I have seen him in concert as well.
Wow.
I know. That was amazing. And
all right.
Something really old, but I would say, well, let's just stick with my favorite song from people because that's
all right. Perfect. We'll just do one song each.
One song each there.
Okay. I don't even know what I wrote there. What the heck was that? Looks like it says Larry. No.
Ed Sheeran?
Larry. No, Ed Sheeran's on here too. So go ahead and give me one from him.
Something about a castle. Do you know what that is?
I'm not real familiar with his music either.
Castle on the Hill? Castle something? It's older. It is definitely older. Something about a castle. You'll have to look it up. Yeah.
Something about a castle. All right. And on number 5, it looks like it says Larry, but I don't think it's Larry. Lazy. Lemmy. Let's move to 6. Pink.
I just saw Pink in concert in October.
You know, but you don't go to that many concerts. Remember, you said that at the very start of this.
Did I really?
You did. You said you don't like to go to concerts, so you haven't been to that many, and that you're very selective with what you go to.
That was really stupid that I said that, honestly. I am choosy, but these are like the people that I see, like they're like my bucket list. Like Pink was my bucket list.
Okay.
Let's see, with her. Oh, honestly, I think one of my favorite songs by her is Like a Pill.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Pink?
Is that off the Funhouse album or the?
Oh, I don't know. It's old.
Okay.
Oh, it's real old.
I'm not real familiar with Pink. I try not to let this do this because I can't stand people that are like this. But I become this way sometimes, and I hate it about myself. When I see an interview with somebody and they say something just totally stupid, or they're just an idiot, right. that can influence my view of their art, which I hate that, because I like, just on a mental level, like my emotions aside, I want to judge their art. I don't care what their personal life's like. I don't care what they believe. I don't care where they're at. I should just be judging, is this a good song or not? You know, but if somebody gets up there and says, I'm not saying she said this, but it's just an example. Somebody says just something's like just really stupid. And it's like, dude, really? Like, what? You know, like I do it with actors, I do it with singers, I do it with the whole deal.
You know, I do that to some extent, actually, a lot of extent. If I don't care for you personally, I do not want to support what you do.
Right. See, and I try not to be that way. Unless it's something like, oh, this guy raped 30 children.
Okay,
then obviously I'm not going to go down and buy his album. But if he's like, oh, I believe something different than you, like in a political way or a spiritual way, like some guy's an atheist, I'm not going to not listen to his music because he's an atheist, and I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's
that
good.
Doesn't make any sense.
I think it's the right way to be. For instance, I try real hard not to listen to Chris Brown.
Oh, because back in the beating Rihanna days?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I tried for a long time. I would change the channel.
Yeah.
I would not listen to it. But sometimes you hear a song and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you look who it is. And you're like, dang.
So maybe that's what you should do. Just never look.
Yeah, that's probably
ignorance is bliss.
Well, I do feel that way. Ignorance is bliss a lot of the time. So I tried really hard not to listen to this music for a very long time. So yes, no. So I do it. Yeah.
All right. I got a few left here. We'll hit one song each, unless another one comes to you. You can say the second one too, but just give me one. Keith Sweat.
It's so hard. I don't even know what half the songs are called. What was like his biggest?
Oh man, and I Want Her, I think, was his first big single.
Right. Not that.
Keep It Coming.
No. Gonna have to text you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was so bad with like song names, honestly.
Yeah. But when you hear it, you're like, ooh, that one.
Yes, that one. Yes. Oh, Twisted.
Oh, okay.
How was that the first thing that you thought of?
Well, that was a little later. Was that like the 4th or 5th album, I think?
This says 1996.
Yeah.
Which would make perfect sense. Graduated in 94. I
think that was his 4th album.
That
came out after Keep It Coming. Keep It Coming was like 94. Remember Keep It Coming?
Get Up On It. That's the album.
Oh, yeah. That's
I don't know what song that is, by the way.
That's a good one too.
Twisted 100% hands down. Yes.
Yeah. You should have said, oh, it's it's the one that's about sex. That's the one I like.
That narrows it down. Yeah. The one with the bass in my car when I'm driving my Honda.
Yeah, Keith Sweat is like the ultimate bedroom music.
Yes.
Like he's like that guy was the best. Oh, Jodeci. Remember Jodeci?
Yes, I remember.
That's another good one. I just remembered them just now.
Yeah.
That was another good
I wasn't a huge fan, but I totally
totally good. All right, Boys to Men.
I don't know. I feel like they're all kind of equal. I wouldn't say I was passionate about one song or the other.
Oh. They're great.
They are great, but I can't remember. Like, I don't think I was passionate about one song.
All right, Paula Abdul.
Oh, Straight Up. It's great. It's a great song. Opposites Attract was a great song.
Yep.
I didn't care for the one that she did. Didn't she do a video with Keanu Reeves?
Yes, I think so. Was that?
Right?
Is that Will You Marry Me or no? Rush. It was one of the ones off the second
maybe
album.
Rush.
Okay.
Not that. I didn't love that.
Promise of a New Day. It was one of the ones off her second album. I'd say her new album that came out in like 94.
Yeah. And I can probably say that I probably like that album less than like her original first. Hey, I'm
with Straight Up and
Straight Up was good.
Cold Hearted Snake and all that on there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I put initials and I don't remember what this was. Oh, Debbie Gibson. I was like, what's DG? Can't remember the name of the songs.
I mean, I listened to her, but I don't think I could name a song. And she wasn't one of my favorites. And along with Tiffany, like, that was probably like one song that I really liked of hers. But other than that, I don't think I cared that much.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
Well, she had that Could Have Been was like the saddest song ever made. Remember that?
My mom hated Tiffany. And when I told her to listen to Tiffany, she was very upset about it because Tiffany redid a Beatles song.
Oh, yeah. I Think We're Alone Now. No.
Yes.
No. I saw her standing there, but she changed it to I saw him standing there.
Okay, my mom was offended, and anytime
isn't that funny? My dad's the same way.
Angry, like legit.
Yes.
I said the word Tiffany around her.
Yeah,
I hate that girl. She ruined that. Who cares about her doing? And she's trying to do a Beatles song. She's not going to make it, which obviously she wasn't completely wrong. You know, she wasn't popular for a very long time.
No, she had the one album. That was it.
Yes. And so my mom was literally offended. Like she could not stand her. Yeah.
But that's so funny. There was a time I showed my dad a cover of Yesterday by the Beatles.
Okay.
And I never got a response. I think I sent it to him through an email or something. I sent him to MP3 and I never heard. And I said, "Oh, Dad, you never told me. What'd you think?" Because he's a big Beatles guy.
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, what'd you think of that song?" And he just, and I thought he was joking, but he was deadpan. Like there was no emotion. Like he's just like, "I don't know, son. I just, there's just some things you just shouldn't mess with."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, the Beatles were great, but I mean, they're not God. I mean, it's like,
no, if you're a
don't
Beatles
step
fan,
on the holy ground of the Beatles,
No,
it's
but
like,
that is, if you're, my mom 100% would feel that way. Yes.
Wow.
Don't step on the holy ground of the Beatles for sure.
That's nuts. Yes. I mean, I love the Beatles, don't get me wrong, but I don't put them on that status.
Yeah. But again, she was a young girl, probably the first band that she remembers seeing, big deal. Like my grandmother's from England. The Beatles are from England. Like you almost feel connected in a way. Yeah. Big deal. Yeah.
All right. Lastly, Brian McKnight. Can you think of any titles or no?
Like Back to One.
Okay.
That's the only title I can remember. And I do
there you go.
So there you go.
That's all I need is one.
That's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Good enough. All right. Well, politics is next. That's where we're going to get dicey. We're going to get dicey now.
I won't have a lot to say on this.
Oh, you will. Trust me. People always say that. So here's the thing. Like there's politics, meaning like who's the president, who's the governor, who's the mayor, the elections, all this kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
And that's like government stuff. And that's fine. Some people like to talk about that. I don't mind talking about that. I like talking about that too. Then there's like just world issues, country issues, national things that are happening that are maybe caused by the government, caused by political things, but they're affecting our daily lives. Okay. So usually like the first thing I'll ask is just like, people tend to lean right or lean left. Some people try to say they're in the middle, but after talking with me for about 20 minutes, I can see which way they're actually leaning.
Yes.
People try to take the middle ground like, oh, no, I'm right down the middle. I'm sorry, nobody's right down the middle. I don't care who you are.
Well, especially not anymore. I feel like maybe you could say that 8 years ago, but maybe not now.
That's true. I think it's becoming more and more polarized.
Yeah,
It's
very
getting
polarized. Yes,
absolutely. So what side would you say you lean?
Left for sure.
Left. Okay.
There's no question. Yeah. I would say, but if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I honestly didn't know if I was Republican or Democrat.
Okay.
I felt like I would fall in the middle, but because I feel like it's very polarized nowadays.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago, which I feel like everyone should be, you know.
Sure. Yeah, you want to grow and progress. Yeah.
I would say I'm very left. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what things makes you come to that conclusion? Like when you say I'm left, like what things would you say, oh, this is a left-leaning policy I believe in or I agree with, or it's not this right-leaning policy that I don't agree with?
I think that in general, to be more vague to start off with at least,
sure.
A lot of the social issues, I feel, I just feel like, you know, I said earlier on that I have a lot more empathy now than I probably ever have in my life. And so I feel like there's a lot of social issues that I don't know if the right, again, it's hard because everything you hear is so, you know, I don't know, it's so hard, but I don't know if people who tend to lean towards the right don't seem to, and I hate to even say that, that sounds very generalized and stereotypical, and I shouldn't even say that. But the social aspects are what get me. Like, I don't feel there's a lot of equality. I don't feel like there's a lot of empathy for people who have like addiction issues. Not everyone homeless is an addict. What are we doing to help them? People assume that they should just be helping themselves. People, you know, with children who they, you know, the only reason they can afford to live in a awful, gross infested apartment is because they have to work 3 jobs. But how do you do that when you have kids at home and just stuff like that? That I feel like I just, that's kind of how it started for me, is a lot of the social issues.
So you feel like the left is more helpful to people like that, and as opposed to the right?
I mean, that's the thing, is because I don't follow a lot of what's going on. Like, I don't know a lot of like you're saying, policies or laws that are trying to be put into place, or even how a law comes into place, because I clearly didn't learn anything in high school.
It's because we went to public school.
I was there for social hour. I was not there.
That's right. Me too. I was there because my parents made me, but the only thing I got out of it was social.
Yes. I don't know how they let me graduate. I've seen my report cards and they should not have let. So I don't know how everything works in that way. But from what I hear, but again, that's obviously jaded in some ways, right? Yes, I feel like the left tries to protect certain people in ways that maybe the right doesn't, maybe. Yeah.
So if we go back to my 5th grade year, 5th grade, 6th grade, it was the first George Bush running against Michael Dukakis.
Name sounds familiar. Yes.
He was the Democrat. George Bush was the Republican.
Right.
And I remember going home to my parents and telling them that I'm a Democrat. And they said, well, what do you mean by that? Like, where are you getting that? I mean, I'm like, what am I, like 10, 11?
Right.
Like, where are you getting that from? I said, oh, because we were talking about the upcoming election. And the way I remember explaining it was something along the lines, I don't remember exactly what I said, but something like, well, because from what I understand, there's a lot of people that need help and they're hurting and they can't afford stuff.
Right.
And the Democrats want to help those people and Republicans don't.
Right.
And that was kind of like my whole platform.
So I'm a Democrat.
Yeah, right. So and looking back on that now, I'm thinking, gee, I wonder what kind of bent my teacher had that was kind of presenting it that way, right?
Right.
But now that I'm doing this podcast and I'm talking to people about right and left and all these different things, it seems to me that both sides do want to fix those problems. They do want to help those problems, but they have two totally different ways of doing it. To where the right,
I hope so.
Right, but like to where the left, like you use the word empathy. There, and I've said this so many times on here, but I'll say it again. This is kind of my stance, and you can disagree with me if you want. That's totally fine. But as I talk to people, I feel like people that are right-leaning tend to lead more with, make more decisions based on logic, facts, and reason. And people on the left tend to make their decisions leaning more with emotion and their feelings. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm not saying that people on the left are idiots. They have no intelligence and they're just willy-nilly all over the place. And I'm not saying that people on the right don't care about people at all. And they're just like, no, it's just, if it doesn't work out in this formula, then screw that guy. I don't care if he dies. No, that's the two extremes, but that's not what I'm saying. It's just, it's like a mindset. So to where you take something like homelessness or whatever, someone on the right might say, okay, what's the cause of this? Like, how are they getting to this place to begin with?
Right.
Why is this becoming such an epidemic? Why is there so much drugs on the street? Why is there so much homelessness, people? Why is this increasing? Like, what are we doing or not doing that's causing this? You know, to where, well, here's a better example. So if there's a homeless guy on the street,
right,
and he's got a sign, I need food, I'm hungry, or whatever. I have 12 kids and they're all starving. We're all going to die.
Right.
Now, it's more likely that if a right-leaning person walks by them and a left-leaning person, it's more likely the left-leaning person is going to give them $20.
Okay.
Because they're just like, I feel sorry for you. I feel bad for you. To where
Like
the person on the right.
Like a quick fix.
Exactly. But to the person on the right, like, let's say me, I've given plenty of money to homeless people, but I don't give it to every person I see.
Right.
Because I'm leery. I don't trust it. I don't want to support your meth habit. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I think on both sides of the aisle, if we could see inside a person's head or in their heart and know 100% sure that they really just want food.
Right. Because you don't know.
I don't think there's very many people in the country, right or left, that wouldn't give them food.
Right.
Even if it meant going without, even if I had to give up a meal for the day so this guy could eat, I would totally do it. But I don't know that. And like, it seems like the odds are anyway, like you said a minute ago, not everybody on the street's an addict. And you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like percentage wise, a lot of them are. Like more are than aren't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But my thought on maybe why they're addicts is obviously it's a mental health crisis.
Yes.
So it's,
right.
They are probably, okay, again, not everybody, right? To me, they're more than likely self-medicating as opposed to medicating properly for whatever mental health crisis they're going through.
Sure.
So, you know, one, I think that most of the homeless situation is a mental health crisis situation.
Right. Even as it could go as far as like schizophrenia, but it could even be something, a mental health issue. Let's say they were molested as a child. They were
for sure.
abused in some way. They didn't have a strong family life at home, or whatever. And then that I don't want to use the word cause because I think we all make our own decisions. That led them to the road of saying, oh, I'm going to do these drugs because they help me forget about my past.
Yes.
Self-medication, like you just said. And now they're hooked on it.
Yes.
Right. And now maybe they want to get off of it, but they don't know how. Right. So.
Well, and to me, getting off of it it's not black and white. It's not like, you know, it's obviously
it's not an overnight. Yeah.
No. And it's an every single day for the rest of your life challenge, you know, and how many of us can say that every single day of our lives, we're going through a challenge to that extreme, because that's pretty extreme of a challenge. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. I hope that both sides do want to help people, but they look at it a different way. I just don't know if that is true.
Okay.
But I can't say that, oh, I have 5 reasons to support that. Again, it's, you know, we hear what we want to hear. We see on social media what we want to see because it's an algorithm. And so it's hard to know that we're even getting all the information and the actual factual information, because I don't think we get that.
Right. That's always the deal, right? Like, can we really trust the media? Can we really trust, I mean, because they're all biased and they got their own spin on things. But like, for example, if let's say a Republican governor in, I don't know, let's say, or Oregon decides that he's going to clean up Portland, And he says, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to make homelessness illegal. We're going to start carting them off to jail if they're sleeping on the street. Right. And they just make this fell swoop. They send a SWAT team into downtown Portland, and they just start just swooping people up and arresting them. They're homeless. Right. You would say, and I would probably agree with you, because this is an extreme case, of course, but you would say, well, that's very uncaring. That doesn't show me that they actually want to fix the problem. They're just trying to get they're trying to get the optics fixed, right? They want the dirtiness off their streets, which I mean, honestly, I
don't blame them. Like, I don't want this to look like that either. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel safe walking around a situation.
Exactly. Dude, I was just up there in April. Danny and I were walking around Portland, and we literally watched a guy crap on the street. Like, literally watched him do it.
No, I'm
right by a freeway on-ramp. So, I mean, he wasn't trying to hide in the alley or nothing. Okay. It was just like right out there. So, I mean, it's hard for me because part of me says exactly that. Like, we got to get rid of this. But I'm with you on the mental health thing. But here's where I come to a brick wall. Working at the library, I interact with a lot of people all the time that are drug addicts. They're schizophrenic. They're, and I'll really literally watch their transformation. I'll see a young girl, maybe 18, 19, start showing up at the library, hanging out with the regulars that we know of. And in the beginning, she's real pretty. Yeah. She doesn't look dirty. She's, you can tell she's not really, if she is on drugs, you can't really tell yet.
Yeah.
And then a month later, you're like, oh my gosh. And then 2 months later, like, oh my gosh, like you're literally watching this person transform. But where I hit the brick wall is, I agree, they need mental health help. They need some kind of mental help. But what if they don't want it?
Right. And
what if they refuse it? There's a lot of people like that. Because first of all, they're addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And if you're addicted to anything, I mean, you would kill somebody for it if you have to. You do whatever you do. So if someone says, oh, we're going to put you in this facility, we're going to get you off these drugs. So to me, the only way that you could really enforce that is if you enforced it. And it was against their will. I said, no, I don't care if you want to or not. You're going to go to this facility for 2 months and you're going to get clean.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise they're just going to say, nope, we're just, we're finding our addiction to leave us alone. We're going to live on the streets. But you're like, but you can't live on the streets because you're making our city a crap hole.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you fix that?
I don't know. And that's what I have a hard time with politics or social issues, right? Mm-hmm. Using a different term. I don't know the right answer. So I may feel or think a particular way, but I have no idea what the solution is. Yeah. And I'm sure that's what lawmakers or like governors or mayors and all those important people or whatever, maybe they feel the same way. It's like, well, we don't know the right way, but
that's what they're supposed to do. But a lot of times they're trying to think, how can we get some more of that green?
Yes. Yes. But no, I mean, obviously like your extreme example of throwing them in jail or whatever.
Right.
Obviously that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't work anyway.
And it wouldn't work
because they'd be out on the streets again within a matter of days. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But, but then you also hear like these stories of like, well, states do that to some extent. And I don't know what states do it and I don't know where they end up, but I have heard that like there are some states who basically put them on a bus and pay for their bus ticket and maybe an extra $20 or whatever. And they send them off to other states.
Yeah.
To do it. And I'm like, okay, that
I love it.
Crappy to me.
That's the ultimate pass in the buck.
Yes. And I'm like, that is so irresponsible.
Totally.
And I can't even wrap my head around that. And I feel so selfish and it doesn't help any problem, but what your town looks like. And I just, I can't with that. But,
well, the newest thing that happened recently was here in California. I don't know if I'm sure you saw in the news. I don't know if you watched the news, but when Xi Jinping from China was coming to visit San Francisco.
Oh, I haven't heard this.
Okay. So he was coming he's like is he called the Prime Minister of China or I forgot what the title, I forgot what the title is in China. He's like the president, but whatever their title for that is.
Super important. Got it.
Yeah. So he was coming to San Francisco to meet with whoever. Well, then all of a sudden Gavin Newsom cleans up the streets.
Oh,
nice. So everybody's ragging on Gavin Newsom, but in Gavin Newsom's credit, and I am not a Gavin Newsom fan, but to his credit, he was open and honest about it. He's like, yeah, that's exactly why we clean the streets up. You know what I mean? Like,
you think
but
you
it's
were being
like,
truthful, right?
yes. But it's like, dude, but what about the people that live here every day? Like, you don't care about your own people in your country, but as soon as this guy from China comes, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to make it look like it's all nice here.
Right.
You know, but I'm like, well, what did you do with everybody? What did you just throw them all in jail for the weekend and then let them all back out again, or what? Like, you know, because San Francisco is one of the worst. It's horrible, which is sad because I love San Francisco. That was one of my favorite cities growing up. I love the Bay Area. So awesome. And you know, it's walking around there now. It's like, ooh, I wouldn't bring my kids there. You know,
I've only been there once, and we were there very, very short amount of time. Otherwise, I'd never been there, which was so ridiculous for living in California like my whole life. Like we never went. But I was there for a very short amount of time, and I looked around the streets and was like, I am not a fan of this vibe.
Right.
But I feel like that's most major cities. Obviously, Portland.
Yes. Seattle.
You know, it's the major cities.
Yeah.
What's funny is I have a friend in San Diego, and I went to visit her recently. I think it was last year when I visited her. I did see her recently, but I visited her last year as well. And she works downtown San Diego and wanted to take me to her work to show me her office, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you know, I want to make sure, are you okay? Because there are homeless down there. And I'm like,
I'm from Portland.
I've been to Portland before, like, good. And she goes, oh, are you sure? Oh, do they, you know, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's daytime. I'm sure we'll be fine. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, okay, we went there, and I'm looking around and I'm like, where are they? And she's like, well, there's a couple over there. Oh, you're right. In front of the 7-Eleven. There's like 3. Okay.
Wow.
And she's like, she's like, oh, is Portland worse? Honey, they have like
whole streets blocked off.
Camps on the sidewalk. Like, and that wasn't always the case. Like that, I think that started like COVID, right? When things changed a lot differently. And I remember, I mean, back in the day, I used to go to downtown Portland and go to, you know, a couple clubs or bars or just events. And I could walk on the sidewalk.
Yes.
And yes, you're right. There was a homeless person or 2 or 3, like in some of the door frames and like kind of whatever. Okay. But no, when I have to walk in the street because they have their tents in a row in front of these, you know, no, there's not 3 in front of 7-Eleven. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. San Diego has actually remained pretty decent. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in downtown San Diego, but even when I lived down there, that was one of the big cities that even back then, like I felt safe. Bethany and I walk around at night. No problem.
Sure.
You know, we never do that in LA or, you know, somewhere like that. You know, it's like, there's no way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wow, how funny. You'll have to have her come visit you in Portland and be like, all right, see, this is what I'm dealing with
this
right
is
here.
what I'm dealing with. Yeah. Gosh.
That's awesome. So, all right. So I think you said you don't really have the answer, but I mean, like in theory, if, who's the governor of Washington right now? I don't remember. It's a lady, right? Is it a guy now?
I think it's a man.
Ted Wheeler's Oregon, right?
Oregon is a woman.
Oh, Oregon's a woman now.
Okay. I think Washington's oh my gosh, I'm so ignorant.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But let's say they came to you and they said, all right, Danielle, we're putting you in charge of the homeless issue.
I mean,
you have all the money you need.
Okay, I was going to say, is money an issue?
No, there's no issue here. Whatever you need, we'll give it to you. But we need you to fix this problem. How do you deal with that?
I mean, I feel like, you know how they're building those like little communities? Maybe they're like they're not tiny houses because they're even smaller than that, but they have some sort of home situation and kind of like a community. I think we've got a couple of them around here. Okay. Or hotels, like older hotels are now kind of being turned into, like
mental health. Okay. Like half. Okay.
I think, yeah, like not halfway houses even, because it's not just or whatever, but I think just some sort of like, for them to have some shelter basically.
Right. So they're not on the street.
Right. So something like that, but then also incorporate a therapy program in that where like there's like kind of like rehab, but for mental health.
Okay.
So maybe the drug addicts don't go to that first. Maybe they go to rehab first, get clean, and then be thrown into the mental health. But yeah, it might have to be like, which I'm not really an advocate for making me do something against my will.
Right.
And, however, yes, but just giving them the mental health, there's not enough mental health providers, period, end of story, especially in Washington. I don't know about other states, but we do not have enough.
Like they're lacking, you mean? Like there's not enough people in that profession? Enough people
in that profession.
Okay.
Finding a therapist is very hard. So I feel like if we have the resources, obviously having more therapists, maybe putting them in some sort of like a rehab, but for mental health issues, not necessarily for drug, but just having giving them a home, giving them a safe place, having therapists around to help them. I don't know. I don't know the right thing, but something like that where they have a place that they can go.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think that's the way I would handle it too. But again, I still think I would hit that wall, because I really believe that the percentage of people that would be willing to do that on their own accord would be a very small percentage. I mean, I think it'd be like maybe 20%, maybe 30%. And the rest of them would just be on the street, and we'd still have the same problem. Yeah. So unless we're going to enforce something, which again is difficult because this is America, you know, we have freedom here. This isn't the Gestapo or the whatever, we're going to go in and force people into things that they don't want to do. But so it's just, that's why I listen to both sides, like debating this issue. And I'm like, there's no easy fix for this. Like it's going to hurt somebody on some side of it in order to get rid of it, And
I think that it's, there's not an indefinite amount of money, like that's the thing too.
Sure.
And, there are a lot of people who have views of like, well, they're choosing to do drugs, so why are we helping that mentality? Why are we spending our tax, our tax dollars? I don't want to pay into something and help these people and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I can see a sliver of the point of that, like a sliver, except I don't think addiction is a choice.
Well, it was in the beginning though.
To choose to do it that first time.
Sure.
But I mean,
once it takes over yourself, then
right. It's hard. Yeah. So it's again, and I think that a lot of people do it to self-medicate.
Sure.
So they haven't dealt with the problem of what they're trying to, forget, most likely.
Right.
Yes. So, but it's not that black and white.
Okay.
So to me anyways. But
so what would you think about the idea of like trying to prevent, I know this is like impossible, but just in a perfect world, the idea of preventing drugs from even getting here to begin with, like putting a bunch of tax money into literally, whether it's the border and which border they're coming through, or however that's getting here, whether it's people cooking meth or whatever, find all the meth labs and just start, put more money into locking those people up to where and there's a whole other side of this that would say, oh, you shouldn't lock up drug people. They shouldn't go to jail. They're cooking meth and they're selling it to our kids, and then
they're cooking meth with kids in the house.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. So I mean, I'm
not against putting money into stopping the drugs coming here. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know where they come from. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, okay, meth, a lot of people just make home supplies, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I mean, even then, like you look at something like alcohol, which is totally legal. There's nothing illegal with alcohol. I mean, unless you're driving under the influence, obviously, but a lot of these people on the streets are alcoholics.
Right.
They might not have ever even done any drugs in their whole life. Right. So it's like, you're not going to outlaw alcohol, because they tried that back in the Al Capone days and that didn't happen. So
it's just so hard to I think, there's a lot of things that I think about, like when it comes to drugs and stuff, where I'm like, it's impossible to do that.
Right.
Then we to me, that's also about, kind of leads me into, supplying birth control to minors or children. I don't mean like little, what I'm talking about? Like, teenagers, let's say teenagers.
High school age.
Yes. So, providing them birth control, then that just is giving them permission to have sex. Let's just stop. Like, let there be no birth control out there, and then they won't have sex. That's kind of how, but the drug thing for me is like, I mean, how possible is that? And that's not going to, one thing doesn't mean another. And it's just,
well, that was always the struggle for me too, like with abstinence teaching versus safe sex teaching. Yes. Right. Like I understand both sides of it, like to where it's like, yes, if your kid's going to be sexually active at a young age,
right,
you want them to be smart about it, right? You want them to use protection. You don't want them to just sleep with everybody they know because, or whatever. Like there's so many issues. You could have teen pregnancy. You could have sexually transmitted diseases. You could have all these things could happen, right? Not to mention all the emotional and mental problems that come with being sexually active at a young age that they're showing in studies now.
Yes.
But at the same time, me as a parent, I feel like if I'm teaching my kids safe sex, I'm almost giving them the green light, even though I'm not. It's like, hey, don't do this, but when you do, here's how you're going to do it. Like, it just, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. It's like the parents that would allow their underage kids to drink and have parties as long as they did it at their house. It's like, I understand. I get it. You don't want your kid driving drunk. You don't want you get a phone call saying
that way you can like monitor the situation as well.
Exactly. Yes. But at the same time, it's like you're giving your green light. You're giving your approval and saying, yeah, it's okay. You're 16, but go ahead and get drunk.
Right. No, I agree. Like I get that. I do feel like, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with abstinence, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I do believe in like being responsible and not just sleeping with everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
sure.
I'm not trying to promote the, do whatever you want sexually with anybody you want to do sexually.
Right, but that's kind of the way it is now, right? I mean,
with the
20-somethings right now, it's like they're talking about, what's your body count? What's your body count? It's like, what?
Yeah, that used to be like killing, I think, right? Like
yeah, right. I was gonna say when I was in high school, body count was Ice-T's heavy metal band. So it's like
I thought it was also like a gamer term in some video games, right? Like when you
how many people have you killed? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that's where the term originally came from. There's a school shooting. What's the body count? Or there's a war. What's the body count? Or whatever. You know.
I mean, it's disgusting. It's disgusting when you talk about like that for sure. But I'm not necessarily an advocate for abstinence or demanding of my kids, like, trying to push it on my kids. However, I'm certainly not the parent who's like, do whatever you want. I feel like with both of my children, I've had a lot of conversations about respecting your body, respecting how sex changes things emotionally, like it puts a whole new spin on, and they're young and hormonal and it's already scary. Right.
So how do you go about it then? Like so you don't tell them don't do it at all, but then you just tell them wait till you've known somebody for a while, or like what do you?
I think, and that's kind of how I was raised, was like not do it at all. Let me think on this for a second. No, and I definitely was raised with no, but if you're going to do it, be responsible about it. But I don't necessarily want you to do it. And
but what does responsible mean? I guess is what I'm asking. Like, because that could be a different list for everybody.
Make sure that you're in a long-term relationship.
Okay.
Make sure it's a healthy relationship.
Right. So no sex on the first date, kind of thing.
Right. No. Like, we're talking years, possibly.
Okay.
And I think that also changes with age.
Sure.
So hopefully the conversations change with age.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I mean, when it comes to my son, I think not that we didn't talk about it at home, but I feel like as far as the logistics of things and protection logistics, probably was done more in school.
Okay.
And then be a topic at home. But also, I think a lot of conversations were about respecting women or your partner or whatever the case may be. Like a lot of respect and relationships. Thankfully, my son hasn't really been in a relationship. So
he's got a girlfriend, doesn't he? I see their pictures on Facebook.
It was like for 2 seconds, right?
They're not together anymore?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Oh, that was like last
right
week.
After I posted that picture, they broke up.
So it's your fault.
Yes. So like, thankfully, and when I if I see something in a show or I hear something online or he brings something up from school, someone made a comment, I'll definitely take those opportunities to like, hey, and we'll kind of talk about it then. But it's kind of like one of those, like, it hasn't really we've talked about it plenty, but also not in a super serious, like in your face way, because he hasn't really had a long relationship that I feel like, okay, we really need to remind you, like, let's reaffirm this kind of thing.
But if he was like a ladies' man since like junior high and he just had girls all over him, you probably would have had a different conversation.
It would have been, you know, and then it's handled differently like that. But I would say I think he knows my stance on it. Just kind of coming and going conversations. It was never really like a one conversation sit down. It was kind of just as things come up, we readdress and I remind, and or we'll talk about somebody else. Maybe there's another, you know, kiddo who's having a situation. We'll kind of talk about that. And I'm like, here's my opinion about that. Right. Kind of in a casual way. You know, obviously Jocelyn was raised differently, having two homes.
Right. Because you and Danny obviously don't see eye to eye on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But are you guys like respectful of each other with your views on things, or like? I guess I've never really talked to Danny about this, so I don't really know.
I mean, I would hope so, but but I don't know. I don't know if I ever asked Jocelyn, hey, did your dad say anything bad about what I said to you about this? Like,
oh right,
you know what I mean? Like, you know, it hasn't come up.
Right, but I mean, as you guys are parenting a young girl.
Yes.
Together yet separate, because obviously, you know, you guys aren't married anymore, and you at your house, he's at his house. She's spending time with both of you. I think that me personally, my personality, I would go nuts. Like I couldn't handle it. Like I'd be like, okay, wait a minute, like this is my values, this is my beliefs, yet mom has totally different list of those. So how are we going to raise especially a young girl? Yeah. You know, especially with, like we were just talking about, the way the world is, the way the 20-somethings are talking about body count, and you know, by the time they're 22, they've already slept with 50 people or something, and it's like, what? Like,
no,
what?
It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
I think that because she was raised in the church with them and those viewpoints, I think obviously she got a lot of conversation about abstinence in that home. And I think that I don't feel like my viewpoint is so different than abstinence is great. Like, I'm not, you know, I was always very clear of like, hey, I'm not saying I want you to wait till you get married or feel that it's super important, but hey, there's a lot of in between of being very promiscuous.
Sure.
And waiting till you get married. There's two. Yeah. So I feel like she got enough. And that's part of her having different parents in each house. Actually, I kind of valued, because then she could kind of make her own decision of what fit best for her.
Sure.
She was hearing two different sides of things and two different perspectives. But yeah, I mean, I had the same mentality with Ian, but at least with Jocelyn, she got the other side as well, where Ian hears just mine. And I would say his dad is probably more so my thought process.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you and Ian's dad line up more than you and
I
Danny
would say yes, we line up more on that on like that kind of stuff. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like I don't think that, I don't know. I'd never really asked Jocelyn like, hey, do you feel like it was very confusing hearing something about abstinence and then not? I've never really asked her that.
Right.
But I'm also thankful that like she waited till she was much older to have a relationship, because then it brought, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like I may not be a religious person but I feel like I don't have bad values.
Sure.
So I wasn't trying to, you know, wasn't letting her drink in my house. We talked about drugs all the time, as far as like no and this and that and how it can cause problems and how you treat people and respect your body and, you know, just, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And that's what I find fascinating. And because we all get like different kind of outlooks and viewpoints coming from different places, to where I might say, well, these are my good values. I might use the word good values, and you might listen to those, goes, oh my gosh, like this guy's crazy. And then you listen, and then you list like your good values, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like she's nuts. Like,
right.
So we can all have a viewpoint of what good and bad values are, but it kind of all depends on where we're getting those good and bad values from, and what's our standard behind it. To where somebody who's religious based, or let's say Christian based, like obviously they're going to be trusting in what the Bible says, as opposed to somebody
Right.
who's not. They're like, I don't care what that old 2,000-year-old book says. I could care less.
Right.
You know, so it's just interesting to me to kind of see where that's coming from. And we'll get more into that in a minute, because you know where I came from. You knew me back when I hated all that stuff. So
Right. Yes.
which is going to be
Yes.
fun to talk to you about, because I haven't really had anybody on here yet other than like Danny that was actually involved in all that
Right.
during my I hate Christians phase. But yeah, so I mean that's a really cool perspective. So would you say, though, I usually ask like what you think is like the biggest problem in our country? Would you say that's homelessness, or would you say there's something else? Or addiction, or
I think the country has a lot of hate for
Okay.
people who don't agree with their stance.
Okay.
And views.
And do you see that from both sides, or do you see it as more from one side than the
I
other?
see it on both sides. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that issue then plays into everything else, small and big. I feel like
Okay.
everyone thinks that each person or group or whatever think that they're right, they're better,
Right.
Whether it be socially or racially or whatever, and there's just hate. I
Okay.
feel like there's just hate.
Okay. So let me do a little thought experiment here. So if I make the statement, and I'll answer this honestly, if I make the statement, homosexuality is wrong. I know you disagree with that statement, but that's not what I'm going to ask you. At least I assume you agree with that. Do you disagree with that statement?
I disagree with the statement. Yes. Okay.
Yes. But when I say that, do you translate that as I have hate towards those people?
No, hate is a very strong word.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not necessarily say that you have hate for them.
Okay.
No.
But do you think I like them? Do you think I love them?
I don't think
I love the facial expressions. I wish this was being aired as a video.
Could see my face.
That's what I was just going to say.
Hear my voice. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Like I'm a Libra, so
as far as your sign.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a hard time choosing decisions a lot because I can see both sides or whatever. So, okay, gut instinct, right? We'll just go with gut instinct. My first response would have been, no, not necessarily would I assume that you love them or like them, but I also don't necessarily think that you hate them. No.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is it seems like a lot of people, first of all, let me say this. I agree with you. There's a lot of hate in the world coming from both sides. Depending on, you know, I mean, ever since 2016 with Trump in office and then Biden now and all this, I mean, it's just getting worse, right? It seems like you're not on my team. I hate you and I hope you die. And the other side says the same thing. It's just ridiculous. But I also notice that a lot of times people attribute hate to, or they think somebody hates somebody simply because they disagree with them or because they hold a view like the one I just said. If I say homosexuality is wrong, well, to someone that's a homosexual and is living that lifestyle, they're like, wait a minute, this is who I am. So you're saying that who I am is wrong?
Right.
So they take offense to it, which I kind of understand.
Yes.
But I wish that there was more discussion about it, like to where, you know, and people hate when I use this example, but I'm using it anyway. You know, it's like if my daughter is addicted to heroin, okay, and I hate her drug addiction.
Right.
The reason I hate her drug addiction is why? Because I love her so much.
Right.
I don't want to see her to that. And I know from a non-religious standpoint, it's not seen that way.
Right.
But if, hypothetically, if Christianity's true and the Bible's true, then that is a true statement. So
okay, right.
My love for them would be to say, well, maybe you shouldn't live that way in the same way as to a drug addict. Now, usually as soon as I say that, if I'm speaking with someone in the gay community, the first thing they go to is, dude, are you serious right now?
You're
Are you really
comparing
comparing? Yeah,
my
you're
sexuality to
comparing my
heroin?
sexuality to a drug addiction. It's like, no, I know they're not the same thing. I understand that. They're not even remotely the same thing at all.
Right.
But I just the concept of being able to being able to hate something that someone's doing or living because you love them so much. To where I would say, if I was talking to, which I have talked to a gay person, we've had this discussion, and I would say, and they would say, well, Ryan, do you think I should be not in this lifestyle, living a homosexual lifestyle? I would say, well, yeah, I do. And he'd say, well, how can you say that? I don't tell you not to be in a heterosexual lifestyle. Right. But then it all goes back to where the standard's coming from.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of the hinge point of the whole thing, or the hinge pin of the whole thing, to say it's either true or it's not. You know what I mean?
Right. But you're coming at it because of your belief in, your Christianity, your belief in the Bible.
Right.
And let's say you're talking to someone who doesn't believe in that, not because they're an an atheist or a Satan worshiper, right?
Right.
Just simply they don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Then it sounds, awful, right? So
Sure.
Okay, I understand that your view is based on your beliefs in Christianity and the Bible, but let's pretend that didn't exist. And you're telling them that.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. And that's what I mean is that's what I'm saying. That's the hinge pin.
Right.
Because if it's not true, because I guess what I'm saying is it's to me, it's more than yes, it is a belief. You're right. That is what I believe.
Right.
But whether I believe it or not doesn't make it any less true or not true. In other words, my belief that it is true doesn't make it true. And someone else's belief that it's not true doesn't make it not true.
Right.
Like this is a microphone. I can believe it's not a microphone. I can believe it's a carrot.
Right.
It's not going to change the fact that it is a microphone, right? So,
right.
So that's why I say that's kind of the hinge pin. And if it's true, then it doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what they believe. It doesn't, because we should be aligning ourselves up with the truth. But I understand what you're saying for someone who's looks at it and goes, well, I don't believe that.
Right.
Well, I would say, well, why not? Let's talk about it. Right. Or maybe they'll say to me, well, why do you believe that? All right, let's talk about that. You know?
Well, I feel like the problem is when you first were talking about the story, when you're I talked to a gay person. First of all, it sounded like that was the first one ever, but I'm sure that's not the case. But
I know I've talked to many, many gay people.
Right.
I have yet to have one on this show, though. I would love to have one on the show. But I have not had an open one on the show. Let me put it that way. I don't always ask people what their sexuality is. So
right.
I let them volunteer that information if they want to, but
that's probably the best. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I totally forgot what my point was.
You said when I was
a discussion when you're saying let's talk about that. The problem is there's not enough people who want to have a discussion about it.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's on both sides.
And both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Is no one wants to have the hard conversations because that's what it is. It's a hard conversation.
It is.
And there's too many people out there who just want to have their opinions for whatever reason, whether it be just how they were raised or religion in some way or whatever it is. And they don't want to talk to people who have different ideas or live a different lifestyle than them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I personally struggle with those people, even the Christians that are like, well, why do you believe that? Oh, I just do. My parents were Christians. I was raised Christian. I just believe Christianity. I said, well, but why? Don't you ever wonder if it's true or not? No, it is true. Yeah, but how do you know? I just do. I just know.
Right. They told me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that just doesn't, that doesn't fly for me, which is why for so much of my life, I was so against it because it was no, what do you mean? First of all, what do you mean you're the only way? What kind of crap is that?
Right.
Come on. You tell me you heard all the questions I would say to Barbara and Pat during those Bible studies and stuff,
Yeah.
So
I feel there's so many different religions out there, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And so I feel like everyone's just trying to believe in something. And why does this religion totally despise this other religion when they both are believing that they're believing in something, first of all.
Sure.
And they're raised to they've all been raised to believe these, and they've all asked most likely they've asked their own questions about why, and they all have answers.
You'd hope.
But right? But you're judging this religion because it doesn't match your religion.
Right.
but that's maybe how people feel about people who aren't religious. Like, I don't know. We're all kind of just trying to do the best with what we have. And that's
that's why,
how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why for me, I wouldn't judge someone else's religion based on my religion. Like that's not the litmus test to me. First, I would have to determine if mine's even true. Right. And if I can come to a pretty solid, obviously I can't come to 100% conclusion on that. Who can? Right. Right. But if I have pretty strong convictions and reasons why it's true as opposed to other ones, then maybe I can use it as a litmus. But it shouldn't. The test should never be, oh, you disagree, your religion disagrees with mine, then yours must be wrong. Right. It's like, but who says mine's wrong? Because he could say the same thing to me.
That's what he is saying about
exactly.
Like,
exactly. So
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, we're gonna get into that next. But the one other thing I want to ask you is, so we talked a little bit about just homosexuality, which has been around. It's been more upfront in the world for years now, right? In the beginning, it was more. It's becoming more accepted now than it was 20, 30 years ago. Right. How do you feel about like the use the word uprising makes it sound like some kind of mob, but the excess seemingly over the last couple of years of now the trans community, which has kind of taken center stage over everything else seemingly, and I don't think that's because they're trying necessarily. It's just because it's kind of it's not a new thing. I mean, it's been around for a long time. Yeah. But the volume of it seems new, and the out frontness in the news, and the schools are fighting over it, and the government's fighting over it, and states are passing laws, and all these things are happening. Right. They got surgeries happening and all this stuff. It just seems more up in the thing. So do you kind of feel you seem to hold a pretty liberal position on homosexuality? If you want to love whoever you want to love, you want to marry whoever you want to marry. I assume you would say what most would say, which is, as long as they're both of age, and as long as it's consensual, doesn't matter if you're male or female, you be with whoever you want to be with sexually. Yes. No problem. As long as animals aren't involved and children aren't involved, right? Two consenting adults. Yes. And I would say that I've most of the time always kind of felt that way, but I would say the older that I've gotten, and the fact that I have children and that kind of thing, I think I've been a little bit more open as well. Plus my children teach me things, right? Because they know people and they're friends with people and they have their own thoughts and feelings about it. Mm-hmm. Yes, I just, for both of them, I just want them to be in obviously consensual relationships. Right. And, yes. But also like, if it's a healthy relationship and it makes you happy and it's like emotionally healthy, right? Mm-hmm. Then do you like, we're not all blessed to have people in our lives who love us. Right. And they're really going to like try to make you fit in a lane in order to find that love. Like, it's just that's how I feel about it. Yes. Yeah. But even with that though, there is a cutoff. Like you would cut it off with human interaction between two consenting adults. As opposed to animals? Well, sure. Let's use animals. Let's say there's a guy who says, because I mean, if the only stipulation is find your own happiness. Let's say a guy says, you know what? I like having sex with iguanas. That's just what makes me happy. And, that's my truth. And that's what fulfills my life. But you would probably say, dude, you're a sicko. Like, what's wrong with you? That's not my thing. But right. I guess at the end of the day, do I care? Does it affect me? Is it my iguana? Yeah. No, it's not. You don't even know this iguana. You have no relationship with this iguana at all. Okay. Then with my first instinct go, okay, that's really weird. But but do you think they should have the legal right to do that? But sure, I guess. Like, how do you know that iguana's consenting? I know, and that's the thing. Can they consent? Okay, maybe that needs to be the rule, right? Yeah. Both have to consent. Iguanas, dogs, whatever, can't consent. Right. Yes. Right. Okay. Yes. So we're going to use that example, I guess. Okay. So that was a weird thing to say, but just, I like saying weird things. Yeah. But then again, going to like the transgender community, right? Do you view that in the same way? Do you have the same kind of liberal stance on that as well? I'm working on it. Okay. I would say more liberal than conservative because
Okay, but that one, honestly, that one was a little hiccup for me where maybe I was like unsure if I agreed with it or not or whatever. And honestly, talking more to my kids about it, I feel like it's opened my mind a little bit because obviously both of my children are very liberal and progressive.
Right.
Which probably kills Danny that Jocelyn is, honestly.
Well, I mean, most honestly, percentage wise, especially in the West here,
yeah,
most of that age group is.
Yes. So I still feel, if one of my children decided to, it's hard for me to say decided to be trans because I feel very like you're born a particular way. Okay.
Sure.
So, but decided to
transition. But if they came to you tomorrow
and wanted to transition, would I have a little, like pause and would have to take pause? Yes. So I'll be honest about that. Yes.
Would you ask a lot of questions? Like, is there a part of you to be like, I want to make sure they're really feeling this way? Because there is the whole idea that maybe it's for attention, maybe it's for it's a phase.
I mean, I would hope that I would hope that there'd be conversations. Do I know what questions I would ask? I'm not sure that I would know that without going through it.
Right.
But I would definitely take pause and it would be a little harder to swallow. But I think, okay, but why? Is it because of what society would think? Is that what would make me feel? Because of I feel about society, what society would think about my child, me as a parent, how they would treat them, say about them, say about me. That might be why I'd take more pause about how I felt about it.
You think you would get more ridicule than like celebration?
I do feel like there'd be more ridicule, not for me, I mean just society.
Well, I mean, because it seems like, and again, this is going back to media and how much can you really trust? Are they showing us everything? Are they only showing us what they want us to see? But it seems like, at least on this side of the country, there seems to be a lot of celebration for parents that are raising trans children in order to, that are supportive of it, and they're allowing their children to be who they want to be. And there seems to be a lot of applause coming from that side, to where if there's a story like the thing in Canada that happened where the mom was all for it, and I think the girl was 13 years old and she said she was a boy, and the mom was all for it, and the dad's like, no, this is not cool. Well, the dad got, he got torn apart. I mean, I think he even spent some jail time because he wouldn't call his daughter him. Like he wouldn't use the proper pronouns, so it was like this big old deal. But I'm sure there is obviously going to be a lot of backlash for parents who are supportive of that.
Yes. Well, I feel like, yes, you're right. In society, yes, I've seen there is a lot of celebration. However, there's a lot of society who is not celebrating it.
Sure.
And I honestly, there's people that I know personally who would not celebrate it.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't celebrate it. I'll say that right on the record.
Right. And yes, I'd put you in that box.
Yeah. Anybody that knows me probably knows that by now, but yeah.
Yes. So it's hard. Like, I don't know if like my feelings about it would be dictated because of what other people would say, or they're my own feeling, like, or I just am not sure. So that's harder for me. But I try to, I'm not in that person's shoes. So I have a very hard time. I don't know what it feels like when people would say, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Sure.
I don't feel I was born to be this particular person. Like,
yeah, but don't you think we've all gone through that to some extent? Maybe not on a gender level, but like there's times where I'm overweight and I'm like, I'm just not comfortable in my skin. I wish I was way skinnier. I wish I looked like Brad Pitt or something. Why do I have to look like this?
But but if it's something, I mean, yes, because obviously I'm chubby most of the time, and so I. Yes, I've definitely been like, I'm super uncomfortable.
Sure. I'm referring to like your comment of not being happy in our own skin. I think that's most people. Like, even talk to supermodels and they're like, yeah, I'm on every magazine cover, but look at this little thing right here. I mean, I wish I could get rid of this. It's like, shut up.
But like, to think of it, it's the extent of gender. I would assume, but again, I don't know. I would assume or think that it was much more than just, I don't like the way that I look.
Right.
I'm sure that some of it's that, but like,
sure.
Feeling that, yeah.
Well, no, I agree with you. It's different in that sense.
Yes.
Because if you literally feel like you're a different gender than what your parts suggest, then sure, that can be extremely confusing.
That's hard for me. Like I'm not that person. I never thought that way, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I got 2 follow-ups to that, and then we'll move on to spirituality. The first one is, do you think that there is a increase in the number, like the volume of people that identify as transgender now than there was before? Or do you hold the view that there's right, exactly.
I would assume, well, there's going to be an increase, one, because more people I think are going to come out at a younger age, which will look like an increase, but they started younger, right?
Right.
You know,
yeah, but that just means they came out earlier. Because you're saying that they feel that way since they're very young. They feel that way, but maybe they won't tell anybody till they're 14 or something.
Right. I think that because it tends to be more accepting, supposedly, right? That there would be more people willing to come out younger or earlier, or now maybe they're 70 years old and they've always felt this way, but they couldn't, or you know. But statistics don't show that. Like the main demographic is, I want to say, I need to recheck this because I keep quoting this. I need to recheck the new stats because this is probably 6 months ago I looked at this, but it was like between the ages of, I want to say 15 and 23 girls. Oh, okay.
That's by far the biggest demographic, and I mean biological girls.
Okay, great.
That identify as transgender.
Right.
That's kind of a shocking statistic, right? Because then that makes you wonder if there is any credibility to the claim that it's almost like a push from society to be that. And then you couple that with the fact that most of the kids in that age group, or let's say that they come out as trans when they're 13 or 14,
right?
Most of them by the time they're in their early 20s have completely abandoned that. And they're just like, no, I'm not trans anymore. I'm whatever. I'm this now, or I'm back to whatever my biological gender was.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I think there's a lot of credibility to that kind of thing too, because we all know. I mean, we were in high school. There were certain things. You know, it's a stupid example, but I say I mostly, if I'm comfortable and I'm not being forced to wear something, I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
Right.
Now, is that because I woke up one morning and thought, I don't know what jeans are, but I think I want to start wearing those. And I don't know what a t-shirt. No, it's because I was influenced by people of my generation. Oh, this is just what guys wear. They wear jeans and t-shirts. And so I just stuck with it. It's just kind of
well, yeah, because that's what our parents put us in.
Correct. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because we weren't old enough to make decisions, and they're
Yes, exactly. So, okay. And then the last question I want to ask, and this is where I always go, because I think this is really important when we're talking about this discussion. Do you think age matters as far as like when we should support our kids if they're trans? And I'm talking like full support, like we're talking puberty blockers, breast removal, that kind of stuff. And even as far as, taking skin off the forearm and making a penis out of it and attaching it and the whole deal. So in other words, if I'll act like this, and your kids are older now, but let's say your daughter's 12, 13, and she comes to you and says, Mom, I'm a boy on the inside.
Right.
And she wants, and so say she's talking with people at the school and they're like, oh, we can get you these puberty blockers. That way you won't start developing, or, oh, you've already started developing breasts. We can get a surgery to have those removed. And are you like, oh yeah, that's great. Gung ho, let's do it. Or are you like, yeah, maybe you should wait till you're older to make that decision?
I'm definitely not going to be gung ho. Let's do it. Gung ho. I think it also, I think that also depends on the kid, right? So I do have an aversion to medically altering, whether it be medications or surgeries or whatever, minors. I think in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my point. Yeah.
I do have an aversion to that. But on the other side, like I don't have a child going through that.
Right.
Did I have some indication when the kiddo was like 2 that they might be, I don't, not just transgender or bisexual or homosexual, whatever it is.
Sure.
And I've seen them grow into this. And now in high school, we're having conversations about it. I feel like that's different. Like, seeing the kid emotionally go through things, physically go through things. And like, I don't know what that looks like for trans people. Right. So,
right.
But if there was a lot of discussions and I could see them struggling, having mental health issues, possibly because they don't feel that they represent who they are. But no, my first instinct is I'd have an aversion if they were minors. And I do, how much does hormones come into play when these decisions are made, right? These kids are very hormonal. And
oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
A lot that goes on with that. And I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that people choose this lifestyle. I do believe they're born this way, but that's another topic, right? So, but medically, I do have an aversion to before the minor.
And I agree with you, only because something so permanent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same reason I wouldn't let my kid when they're 12 get a tattoo.
Right.
Because it's like, you're not even going to like that band when you're 16. Right. You're going to get a tattoo of that band on your forehead or whatever, because because you grow, you mature,
Yes. Well, and it's funny, as like you say about that, about a tattoo for sure. But like, I see 13-year-olds getting their nose pierced.
Yeah.
And I have my nose pierced, and I'm not against piercings per se, but I'm like, 13 is very young. No, but it's not permanent like a tattoo, obviously.
Right. You just take the earring out and then it closes up. Yeah.
Yeah. But it also looks very, very strange to me. Like, that was a very mature decision.
Right.
Like,
right.
But again, it's not permanent, like whatever, but it's still kind of shocks me where I'm like, whoa. Yeah.
Especially when it's that bull ring through the bottom of the nose. What is that all about? I mean, I'm like, I've seen some really pretty young girls and they put that in there. I'm like, you just ruined it. What are you doing?
I think the only person I've seen that I was like, actually, she still looks fantastic is Florence Pugh. Hers,
that's Black Widow's sister.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, you watch the Marvel movies? Scarlett Johansson plays Black Widow.
Florence Pugh is her sister?
Yeah, in the Black Widow movie.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, you should. She's the best character in the whole movie.
Oh, she's love
awesome.
her. She's super talented.
Yeah.
I saw her in Little Women, and I think that's when I saw her.
Oh, yeah, I saw her in that one too. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but she didn't have a nose ring in either one of those.
No, but she does, like, in real life, so she's like doing quests and stuff. And I think that's the first person that I was like,
yeah,
that's the first time I have not, like,
yeah.
And it was like, kind of thing. But yeah,
I'm not going to look that up because I don't want him to ruin it for me. Because I have never seen. Well, to me, it's like, I don't know. I'm probably going to get a bunch of flack for even critiquing women's looks because I'm a guy. I'm not allowed to do that.
That's true. Yeah.
But like short hair, like really short hair, like even like a pixie cut.
Oh,
I've just never been a fan. I'm not saying you can't do that. You're a woman. You want to cut your hair, go for it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that me personally, I don't find that attractive. Now, there's been women that I think can pull it off. Halle Berry,
sure.
Demi Moore, right? These two, I think they still look great. However, when they have long hair, they look better.
Right.
Right? Do you see what I'm saying?
You look good, but you could look better.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So yes, you can pull it off, but you still look better. And that's just my opinion. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Bethany ever cut her hair like a pixie cut, I think I would be less attracted to her than I am now.
And
that's all I'm saying. That's just, hey, I'm just being honest. So, all right. Well, let's jump into the last section here. Spirituality. Like I said earlier, this is going to be fun because I've talked many times on here, basically my testimony of hating the Bible, hating Christianity, hating Christians. Certain people kept inviting me to Bible studies, and I would just sit there and argue with them the whole time. And I always would say, like me now as a Christian, I would never invite a guy like I was to a Bible study. I just wouldn't do it. I'm like, you're just derailing the whole thing. All these people are here. They're trying to study the Bible. And here's this hothead moron over here who's just popping off at the mouth every 5 seconds, But yeah, but you were at a lot of those Bible studies, kind of in the same boat. I don't think you consider yourself a Christian then. I don't think you do now.
No.
But we had a mutual friend who grew up in the church. Dad was a pastor. They would invite us to Bible studies again. an outreach, I guess, maybe trying to convert us. And
Trying to convert us? That sounds so like
right, you know, and it's right. It sounds, you know, it sounds bad.
It's a little. It sounds a little cultish when you say it like that. Yeah.
Bring them over and make them drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But you know, but I'm sure for me there was probably some seeds planted there, because even though I was argumentative and I hated all of it, I cared enough to hate it. Right. If that makes sense, right? Like that's why some of the most prominent atheists like Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens, who's now passed on, would spend their entire careers writing books about how God doesn't exist. And I'm like, there must be something going on in there. Like I don't believe in unicorns. Right. Okay. But I'm not going to spend my whole life writing books about how they don't exist. Like, I don't care that much. You know?
Do you look at it like, I would look at it as you are doing your part to try to, you know, like when you were talking about the drug stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I care enough about you as a person to try to get you help, right? And talk to you about it. Kind of like, maybe he thought, hey, I'm really worried about these people who are following this Bible. So yes, he put a lot of effort into it, but I'm looking at it as like, oh, he cares enough about you to try to keep you away from it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And in the case of like Christopher Hitchens, I'm pretty sure he viewed religion as a cancer. Like as a belief in God was like a disease that our country had, and it was a bad thing, and it caused all these problems. And if everybody was atheist, we wouldn't have any problems, which I think there's a lot of problems with that theory, just from a morality standpoint in general. But because I mean, studies have been done to show that even if God doesn't exist, he's not even real. It's not even a real thing. People's belief in him makes them better people, just in a societal sense, because they have morality and they have things that they base things on, and they, you know what I mean?
Not everybody, but okay, yes.
No, not everybody, but you know, and people have said before that, oh no, but if you're a Christian, that means you hate the gay community and you hate this and you're attacking, and it's bad for the country when someone's so hateful. Which of course I would respond and say, well, Jesus doesn't hate gay people. Right. If there's a Christian who hates gay people and says they're following Christ, they're not.
Right.
So it's like, so anyway, so it's interesting that you were involved in these Bible studies. Do you have any memories, like specific memories of that time?
I mean, I remember them. Do I remember conversations? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember some conversations with Barbara individually.
Okay.
I don't know. Am I allowed to say names? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Especially someone who's an avid listener.
Right.
Because I know she's going to listen to this.
Name, so she'll listen to this one.
Yeah. Name drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember conversations with her, and I remember, you know, the Bible studies and stuff, but I can't say I remember like what we talked about, what was said, what questions were not asked. No, I don't remember to that extent. No.
I remember only two specific incidents, and I know you were there for both of them. And it's funny because neither one of them really has anything to do with Christianity per se. But the first one is that I was going to Hancock at the time. Mm-hmm. And there was a girl in my class that had been diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer, and they gave her, in fact, I believe she's passed away now from it. I don't think she lasted very long, maybe a year. A young girl. And I remember asking the group, because they were prayer requests, and I felt like an idiot even saying anything, because like, here's this guy who's like, he hates all this stuff. But I remember saying, is this the part where we mention people that we can pray for? And Barbara's like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, there's this girl named Missy who goes to school with me, and she just was diagnosed, so we prayed for her. So I remember that. And then the other remembrance I have was directly involving you.
Okay.
And great. You may or may not remember this, but
I'm scared.
It's pretty funny.
Oh gosh.
So
I'm already embarrassed. Okay,
I want to say it was one of the first Bible studies we were at. And it was like, I think we were going through some book or something, not a book of the Bible per se, but like just a book that was teaching about the Bible or something.
Okay.
And one of the first, you had to take a quiz where you were supposed to write a bunch of adjectives about yourself without your name on it. And then we were going to pass it around, and everybody was supposed to try to guess who the person was just based on the adjectives that you had said. So on mine, I put a bunch of stuff, but two of the ones I remember were stubborn and open-minded, right?
Okay.
And it came around to the guessing, and there were some people were guessing that was me, and you were like, no, I think it's such. Well, then when it turned out it was me, you were really upset because you couldn't comprehend how somebody could be both stubborn and open-minded at the same time. You're like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're stubborn, that's like the opposite of open-minded. And I was like trying to explain it to you. I said, no, I'm open, but like I'm open to what you have to say. Like, I'm not going to shut you off. Like, go ahead and try to convince me otherwise. But at the same time, if I have evidence and I feel strongly about something, I'm stubborn in that. Like, I'm not going to move unless something really moves me. But like at the same time, I get what you're saying, because it's like, wait a minute, how can you be open-minded and stubborn at the same time? And it was really funny. We got in this big argument about it, and it was just like it's a whole thing. So anyway, that's my two memories from that time.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't remember that. I can see saying that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I wouldn't say it now because I see the difference, but apparently at 20, I couldn't say.
Yeah. 20, and I was like, what, 18, 19? I think you were early 20s. You must have been like 21, sure. 22. But anyway, so all that to say, let's just kind of start with a basic, because I already know we've talked about this before, obviously, but you didn't grow up religious, right?
Right. Correct.
Where you stand today, we're talking just the most basic concept. We're not talking about the Bible. We're not talking about even Christianity or anything like that. Just God in general. Do you believe God exists?
I believe something is out there.
Okay. So like more like intelligent design. You believe in intelligent design. Have you heard of that?
I don't know if I know what that means.
Okay, so it's the theory that everything that we have here in the universe was designed by something intelligent. It doesn't have to be God in this theory. It can be anything. It can be an energy force. It can be space aliens. It's just something with intelligence. It could be other people that lived here before us and started stuff and moved off to Jupiter or something, and they're high advanced people.
Yes, but I also think that there is some sort of something out there that maybe looks over us or helps protect us or something. Okay.
So there's a personal element to the intelligent designer, which would line up more with a kind of a godlike figure as opposed to just some random energy force.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily put like a personal figure to it. I normally will say, reference it as like the universe. Like the universe brought that to me. The universe, I'm putting something out into the universe to get something back, or universe.
But is the universe sentient? Does it have like thoughts and like, because that's what that implies. If you say something did something,
imply that. I've never thought about it to that extent, Ryan.
Okay. All right. Well, today's the day. You're thinking about it.
Today's the day. All right. Now I have to think. Now I have to think and make decisions.
Right. Because in order for something to give you something, or even to protect you or to love you or to care for you, that implies something with intelligence, something with even emotion. I mean, if we're talking about love and protection, that's emotion.
I mean, I feel like love and protection is a little far stretched for me, but something out there looking over us, which is different than love and protection, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Over us, it may not be protecting me. It may just be watching the mess, right?
Right. So you mean just like something watching over everything, even if it's like, oh, I hope these people kill each other. Right. Like there's really no care for the people. I don't think it's to that extent, but yes. But it could be like in that sense. So
yes, like I believe in like karma.
Okay.
So like, you put out what you want back, right?
Okay.
So kind of like that idea of like, so I don't know if it's got intellectual attributes to it, whatever it is, but okay.
Well, I feel like it would almost have to, though, because if we put it outside and let's say karma's real, and you do something bad to somebody, like you steal somebody's parking spot, and then the next day you break your leg. I don't know, something. Right. You get in a fender bender and your car's totaled, and now you have to pay for your car, and you see that as karma. But even in that sense, because what we're saying is the reason that you got into a fender bender is because you stole that person's parking space in this particular example.
Right.
So there would have to be something thinking and saying, oh yeah,
you deserve this.
Correct. Right. You did that. Then now here's your consequence. Right.
Okay.
Right. Kind of.
Maybe like I'd have to mill it around, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. So we're clear on that. So we at least we both are on the same page as far as intelligent design goes, but we're at different conclusions when it comes to who that intelligent designer is.
Right.
Or what it is.
Right.
So what specific, that's where I'm gonna make you uncomfortable. You ready? Okay. What specific issues do you have with the Christian belief system or the Christian God or the Bible or whatever?
Say, a lot of it would probably stem from the individuals being, okay, I know that in every group of anything, whether it be job or whatever, there's bad apples, right? Okay, take that out of it. There's a lot of hypocritical actions and statements that can be said in people in religion. I'm not even saying just Christianity, because I'm just talking religion. And
you're talking about people that go against what their own teachings suggest in the name of their teaching,
while they're judging people who are making different decisions, like while they're judging other people for their decisions. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's my biggest issue, I think, with it.
Okay. But that'd be issue with people, right? Not so much the belief system itself. That'd be more the people that are, because in other words, if the people are doing what their religion is telling them to do, let's say the Bible says, go hate that guy, go punch that guy in the face, and they're doing what their religion tells them to do, then the fault is with the religion. But if the religion says, love everybody, and that guy says, I believe in Jesus, I'm going to go punch that guy in the face.
Right.
Then obviously he's acting outside of his own religious belief.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, my issue is probably more of the individual.
Gotcha.
The second hang up I have, I guess, about it, hang up's not even the right word, is the faith aspect. And I've always kind of said that, like, faith in something.
Okay.
I find it, like, I can't relate to having this faith in something that we can't confirm is real, while other people are in their own religions that are different and they believe it's real. And I'm just supposed to trust it to some extent, right? That I just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So you're referring more to like a blind faith, like I don't really have any evidence. I think this is true. I believe it. I'm going to follow it.
Yes.
But you do have some form of faith in everyday life, even if it's not in God. Like you, and this is a cliche example. Many Bible guys have used this before, but you say if you go on a trip, you just went on a trip. I think I saw some pictures on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you went on a trip.
Okay.
And did you pack your bags?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why'd you pack your bags?
Well, because I needed my stuff.
Why?
Obviously having faith that I was actually going on the trip and not
having faith that you're going to make it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like you had some belief that, and the reason for that is because you probably thought to yourself, well, I've been on many planes.
Right.
Lots of people in the world have been on many planes. Yeah, they crash sometimes, but it's a very small percentage. It's a pretty safe way of travel. It's safer than driving a car.
Right.
So you kind of weigh the evidence out, maybe not consciously, but in your mind, you're thinking, hey, I'm going to go on this trip. I don't see any potential problems with it. It's going to be a great time. It probably was a great time. You probably went, had a blast.
Right.
You got back on the plane, you came home, and now you're back home again.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a form of faith.
A form, but that's not blind faith.
No, that's my point.
Okay.
That's my point. So, like with Christianity, and again, this goes back to this is why this is so fun, because you've known me my whole life. a lot of my life.
Right.
You know that I'm a skeptic. You know that I don't just buy into something and just say, oh, you said it's this, great, but by the way, I don't know if you know, but there's some people in our circles that view Danny becoming a Christian and me following right along.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't know if you realize that it happened totally separately from each other.
I don't think that I knew like the timing.
Okay, yeah, totally. It's around the same time.
Okay.
But it had nothing to do with each other.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny. It is very interesting.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say that my faith is not a blind faith. I don't think. Now, again, you say, well, Ryan,
I know that you do a lot of research and questions into conversations. So
yes,
I understand that. Yeah.
Yes, because it's a big deal. Like if I'm gonna put all of my belief and all of my life, if I'm gonna put all my life into a religious, well, I don't even like the word religious, into a spiritual belief, into a belief in a God, and not only a God, but a specific God that a specific book describes and mentions, even though there's other religions and other books that describe God in a different way.
Right.
How do I know I have the right one? That's an important question for me.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I went down roads for years where I was really examining that. And maybe I even think to myself, maybe I have the wrong one. How do I know? Let's examine Mormonism. Let's look into Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's look at, I even looked at atheism. I read books by atheists and the arguments against God and Christianity and the Bible and the whole deal. So, I mean, yeah. So where I come to it is I say, when people say, well, Ryan, can you prove to me that God exists? No, I can't.
Right.
But you can't prove anything.
Right.
Really?
Right.
You can't prove to me gravity exists.
Right. Right.
I mean, you can.
Well, you could jump in the air.
You could.
On the ground.
Yes. Right. Well, exactly. You can prove that something exists.
Right.
But it's the idea that if you drop a ball over and over, it's most likely going to go down. But you can't prove to me that it'll go down every time you drop it, because you'd have to drop it for the rest of your life and their kids and kids and their kids and their kids, right? Because for all you know, it could have
flown up. Yeah.
It's going to go up, or it's going to hover in the middle of the space. I mean, who knows?
Right.
But if you do that so many times, and people are stuck to the ground when they walk, and every time you fall, you go down, you never fall up, right?
Right.
That's all evidence that's going to make you pretty confident that gravity's real, right? So that's where I stand with Christianity, where I would say I'm pretty confident that it's correct and that it's true, and that and because I'm a skeptic, I didn't go at it like, oh, I really hope this is true. I'm going to push aside all the evidence contrary to what I want it to be true. And I'm only going to read and look at the evidence that supports my view.
Right.
Right. Because that would be a biased research, and that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that being said, so that's faith. Like I don't see it as, to me, that's the same kind of faith as saying I pack my bags because I trust the airplane.
Right.
Stupid example, but similar.
Right.
So we talked earlier about morality in a sense. We talked about bad values versus good values. And I mentioned a few times, and this is a big one too, like having a standard outside of ourselves to base morality on.
Okay.
Right? Because, again, to use extreme examples, if I'm a pedophile, my inner, let's just go right into it.
Yeah.
My inner morality might be telling me that's the right thing to do.
I'm sure they think that. Yes.
They might think that, right?
They probably think that. Yeah.
They must. They get joy out of it, or they wouldn't do it. Right? There's something. I mean, they're sick. Don't get me wrong. They're sick and disgusting and twisted all beyond all belief.
Yes.
But there's plenty of these people in the world.
Yes.
And they all feel this way. And there might be different reasons for that. Maybe they got jacked up as kids. Maybe, who knows?
Oh,
I mean,
so
who knows?
Yes.
Right. And a lot of times when they're big time guys, you study their lives after the fact and you see, oh yeah, they were molested as kids, or they were raped when they were 3, whatever the case is. So if we're just going to do morality based on my inner morality versus someone else's inner morality, we don't really have a standard. Like, how do we know who's right? How can I tell the pedophile that his morality is wrong? In other words, right? Okay. So how do you feel about like morality? Like, where does morality come from?
Like, what do you feel like my standard comes from?
Yes, your standard.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, okay, maybe it comes from, obviously, comes from your parents at first, because they're the ones teaching you before you even walk outside of your house, right?
Sure.
So I would assume it kind of started there, but and then that whole cliche kindergarten mentality of do unto others as others, as you would want to you, right?
Sure.
And it sounds cliche and stupid, but at the end of the day, it's not far from how I feel that we should live, right? If I want someone to be accepting of me and my differences, I want to try to accept someone in their differences, even if I don't agree with it or whatever the case may be. I mean, obviously pedophiles aside, no way. But
no more pedophiles. Stop bringing those up, Ryan.
Yeah. Terrible example. So I don't know, like I can't say it's from a book I read, whether it be the Bible or Little Women, I can't say it's from a book. I can't say I read a poster one time and it sang to me. I can't say I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I guess an experiment that would be impossible to do, but to say, because you could say like put a bunch of babies in a room unguided, but obviously they're not going to survive.
Right.
So if it were possible to take like 20-year-olds that were literally born the day they were 20, like they just went into existence. So let's say their brains are fully functioning, but they have no influence from the outside world, whether it's parents, teachers, schools, friends, nothing. And you put them all in a room together, or let's say like a biodome kind of thing where they're living.
Okay.
Do you think that they would all kill each other? Or do you think that they would have like a morality that said it's wrong to hurt my fellow human?
I mean, they would probably harm themselves, like harm each other. Sure. Like, yes, only because obviously my standards, it's something. I mean, I also feel like things that are against the law that somewhat dictates my decision making growing up. Okay.
Right.
Like and honestly, I was raised with fear of getting in trouble. And
yeah, sure.
My dad never laid a hand on me. However, if I got in trouble, he might beat me. Never happened, even once.
Yeah, the fear was enough.
One day.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
Right.
Because that's back in the day. That's how most parents raised, was with fear.
Sure.
So, which
isn't unhealthy. Like, right, if you have a fear of a $500 speeding ticket, that might prevent you from speeding on the highway.
Yes. So, like, when I was driving, I was told you get in an accident, get a ticket, we take your license away. You don't get to drive. So there's that fear. There's a consequence to my action, even if it's not super dramatic, but at the time it felt like that's life altering. Right. Drugs. I was there's addiction in my genetics. So I was always very afraid to do anything, try anything. Plus my parents, I'm scared, right?
Sure.
But that's what kind of kept me away from that, because I didn't get involved in that. But also the fear of like, oh, if I have addiction in my genes, then I'm more prone to, if I'm drinking too much or doing drugs, like I'm more prone for it going really poorly.
Right.
So I didn't want to do that. So I stayed away from that. Kind of just that, oh, you don't hurt people because I don't want to go to jail, because that's terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those, obviously parents, but also like, what are the legal consequences? What are the legal ramifications? Well, I don't like any of them, whether it be just paying a fine or spending a night in jail or hurting someone. Right.
Yeah. So you think moral structure is necessary for human survival?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, yes, I'm sure you
because
do.
I mean, I think there's the whole nature versus nurture kind of argument, and people go back and forth. I think it's both, right? Like I think each baby that's born to me is a unique individual soul person. Personality is different. I mean, we're all unique. There's nobody just like us on the planet.
Yeah.
But I also think that the way we're raised,
of course,
the things we're exposed to at an early age, that's all going to play a part in who we become as adults.
Yeah, that's why you can have identical twins with literally the same DNA.
Yeah.
They can be raised by the same two people with the same best friends, going to the same school every day.
Right.
They're going to be completely different people.
Yeah.
Because that's nature versus nurture. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And on the extreme side of that, you could have a family. Let's even use twins. You have two twins. One's on the honor roll, grows up to be a CEO of a big company, and the other one is addicted to heroin and in jail for murder or something. It's like, what happened? You know?
Yeah, well, and you know what I always find interesting is that like two parents together the whole time had multiple children.
Mm-hmm.
They raise each kid differently, not just because the kid is different, but they are now different. They're parents of 3 children, not just the one. Right. They have a different financial situation at that time. You know, different. Their marriage looks different with one kid as opposed to 3 kids. You know, just
totally.
Yeah. So you know, that obviously plays into it. So
right. So okay. So if morality is necessary for human survival and human life, basically, right. I mean, not for life. We could obviously stay alive as long as somebody's not killing you.
Right. Yeah.
For a civil society, morality is important.
Right.
So then that kind of go back to the question from before that we were talking about is like, where should we be getting it from? Should it be like majority rules? Whatever laws are put into place, like murder's against the law. So therefore, I guess it's wrong. But if 20 years from now, murder becomes legal, or like we do the purge, right? We have one day where there's no laws or something, right?
Right.
Then is that all of a sudden okay? I would say no. I said whether the law says murder's wrong or not, murder is still wrong, right?
Okay, but before you became a Christian, where do you think that you got that from? Why would you think that?
I would say it's an inner morality. I would say that most people on the planet, whether they're Christian, atheist, Buddhist, whatever, would say murder's wrong. I think that's a general, you know, in fact, I think people that don't think murder is wrong, I think that's an abnormality. I think there might be something going on the inside, right? But then there's different, and I'm talking about murder. Like we're talking about like premeditated, I don't like you, I'm going to kill you.
Not just an accident.
Or self-defense, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, someone's breaking into your house
intent.
Yes, exactly. I don't like that guy, I'm going to go shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know? So yeah, I think, but there's always a reason behind it. Almost every time, like you listen to true crime and watching the news and stuff, there's almost always a motive. That's why they always ask for a motive. That's why when those things happen and there's no motive, the police are baffled.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, this was totally random. This guy was just driving through, didn't even know this guy. He lives 400 miles away, and he just decided he was going to shoot this guy and just drive away. Didn't rob him, didn't take nothing. He just decided, hey, I'm going to kill that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's not always a motive.
No.
But yes.
But when there's not, it's weird because, you know, whether it's a road rage incident, there's motive there. That guy flipped me off and I made me mad, you know, or whatever.
Even serial killers, they have their own motive. I mean, it may be weird to us, but it makes sense to them.
Yeah. Whether it's some weird fetish like Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever, you know. Who knows? Who knows? But I mean,
so anyway. So to answer your question, no, I don't know where you get it from.
Okay.
Like, I don't know that. Like, you know, obviously, okay, yes, my parents raised me with certain morals.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, that means most likely their parents raised them with certain morals. Okay. Then, you know, like, obviously, you know, which makes sense because people who have a low standard of morals for whatever reason, they most likely or very often have rough upbringing.
Sure.
It's a cycle, right?
Sure.
So, you know, where did it start?
Yeah.
Where did it stem from? Whatever. I don't know. I don't know where we should get it from. But yes, I feel moral standards are important for civil society. Yes.
Yeah. Are you opposed to them coming from the Bible?
I'm not opposed to them. I have obviously a lot of friends who believe in the Bible. So I'm not,
right.
I feel like if I said I was opposed to it, I would maybe not have friends who believed in the Bible. Right?
Yeah. But I would even say, I bet a lot of your morals I could probably find in the Bible.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to them coming from the Bible. Like, do you mean in general life or do you mean me?
You mean, am I talking about like making it a law? Like to
No, I just mean like, were you asking me like in general if I'm opposed to people getting their morals from the Bible, or are you asking about me?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, so I'm saying as a society. Like if we're like, because we just said a minute ago, like morality is needed.
Yes.
But in order for morality to be solid, it has to come from somewhere outside of us. Otherwise, we're just going to argue our own moralities and no one's going to get anywhere.
Okay.
Oh, I think raping women's okay. Well, I don't. Okay, who's right? We don't know.
Right.
How can we tell? Well, I have no idea. I like doing this. You don't like doing this. How can I tell? We don't know. Right. So there has to be some standard outside of us. So what I'm saying is, would you be opposed to, I'm not using the word law necessarily, but let's say our government decided, okay, from now on, we're going to get our morality, our standard of morality is going to come from the Christian Bible.
Okay. I think I would have a problem with that.
Okay. How come?
Because
how come? Why for?
How come? Yeah. Why? How come? How come not?
Yeah.
Ryan's gonna ask me. Because now the government, let's say if we're gonna say the government, right, has told me, giving me one option to follow for my moral standards. I no longer have options for different ones. Like I don't have any other source to go to. And maybe there's 5 other sources, but I'm forced to use this particular source.
Mm-hmm. So you want to have options.
I would like to have options. And because I also feel that options, not everyone fits in this particular box that goes to one source. Like I feel like people need options. Mm-hmm. For example, you did your research on different religions.
Yeah.
Well, the government saying use this source does not give you the opportunity to do that research.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I guess I'm not looking at it as that extreme, like to where like you wouldn't be allowed. But I mean, things like, let's take the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not commit murder. Okay. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not, like these things.
Right.
If the government was like, okay, this is what we're going to say murder's wrong and it's because the Bible said so. Not because I think so, not because you said so. Lying's wrong because the Bible says so. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head. That's terrible.
Isn't it cheat?
Yeah, commit adultery.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so there's a good one. Like people commit adultery all over the place.
I don't think it should be illegal.
Okay. Do you think it's morally wrong?
First of all, I don't think that it's okay.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think it's morally wrong?
It's so hard because it's not black and white to me.
Okay.
I do not think that you're an immoral person if you do it. I do not feel adultery is a black and white issue, that you're either a good person or a bad person. Is it a good choice? No. Is it a bad choice? Yes.
Well, then how does that apply to what you said before that?
That you're a bad person?
Well, you're saying it's a bad choice. It's not a good choice.
It's not right. It's a bad choice. That doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah, but how is that black? How is that black and white?
I just don't think it's black and white. You don't know this situation surrounding the adultery.
So you're saying there could be a reason behind it that's valid?
Maybe I more find it understandable as opposed to good.
Like what would be an example, like a scenario where you would find it acceptable? Like if they cheat first?
Not acceptable necessarily, understandable.
Understandable. You're right. That's what you said. Sorry.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like people in relationships for an extended amount of time who are maybe not getting what they need out of the relationship, right?
Okay.
I feel and I don't mean sexually, I mean just emotionally, whatever it is, okay?
Yeah.
I see it understandable that they would, and not even purposely seek out the opportunity, but I can see when if the opportunity arises, that I can understand why it was reciprocated, if that makes sense. I feel like for women, at least, it's a very emotional thing. And if they're not getting what they need emotionally in their relationship, marriage, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this person who is giving them what they need and then what they're missing.
Right.
I understand it.
Yeah, that's a good scenario because like you said, with women, they're even like something like sex to them is more emotionally attached.
Yes, of course.
For most of it. I mean, again, this isn't a blanket statement.
Right. No,
but just in a general sense, that's generally the way it is. Where to where men, it's more of a physical thing.
Yes.
It's more, so if a woman is going to cheat on her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, it's generally going to be because of what you just said. It's going to be because her husband or boyfriend is not fulfilling her emotional needs.
Right.
But this other guy at work or at the gym or whatever is fulfilling those emotional needs. Well, that guy at the gym, he wants from her the physical.
Yes.
So, right. So in order for her to get the emotional fulfillment, she's going to have to give him the physical fulfillment.
Right. Most likely, yes.
Right. So you'd say, in that case, you say, well, I understand why you did that, but I don't agree that you should have done that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I understand it. I don't agree with it.
Right.
I don't advocate for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would still be a moral standard then. That would still be to say cheating on your significant other is morally wrong. I didn't say it makes you Satan.
I mean, right. Yeah, it's probably true. I have a hard time saying that sentence because it sounds judgy.
Okay. It's because it is.
Okay. I try not to be judgy.
But depending on the circumstance, everybody's judgy. Depending on the like if someone tells you,
but I try not to be.
Hey, we're bringing back the pedophiles. If someone tells you they're a pedophile,
okay, I'm going to judge a pedophile, Ryan.
Right,
100%.
That's what I'm saying. So it just depends on what the situation is.
Well, okay.
Like you're saying, you have a hard time judging somebody who's committing adultery, but you have no problem judging somebody who's a pedophile. So it depends on the moral wrong that's being committed.
Right. And right? I also try to understand a pedophile. Okay. I shouldn't say that even in a sentence. That sounds weird. Only in the sense that like, I feel like because a lot of them have been abused themselves.
Right.
And didn't get the help that they needed.
Right. So you'd say you understand why they went that direction in a sense, because they're messed up mentally because of what happened to them.
Yeah, that also sounds like I understand people being a pedophile.
Well, you understand why they might go that way.
I'm sympathetic to what they have gone through in their life, and it is understandable that they have repeated the cycle. I kind of feel like that about I shouldn't. It's like racism, right? Like obviously certain generations.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Have seen, have said and heard a lot of why they shouldn't.
Right.
People shouldn't be equal or whatever.
Sure. Right. That's a great example. Because if you go back in like slavery times and people are always saying that, oh, so many of our founding fathers owned slaves. And I'm not going to sit here and condone that. But at the same time, if it's just the way it was when you grew up, it wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Those people then raise their children, right? Like,
yeah.
My grandfather's probably said something he hasn't said. He's 97, right?
Right.
He's probably said something in the past 30 years that he should not have said.
He's 97 today?
Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
And that's your mom's dad?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's so old, right?
Ooh, that's an accomplishment right there.
Yeah, and he's in good health. He's in decent health. It's great. Yes. So,
anyway, didn't mean to derail us with that, but that kind of surprised me.
I know, yeah, it's really old. It's really old. Like I don't. When I've heard that he made a particular comment, which is not often or hardly ever, like it's not a regular thing, or whatever. But in the past, when I've heard that he made a particular comment, I'm like, oh, dear Lord, please don't say that. Like, oh my God, you can't say that, right? But it makes sense. He was not raised in a time. He was just raised in a different time. And yes, people can grow and learn and be better about their thought processes about it and equality.
Sure.
But
which I think we have.
Right. But it's understandable that he wouldn't necessarily know better unless someone is having these conversations. And maybe he said a comment and someone had a conversation without him and then he didn't say it again. Who knows?
Right.
I can't say.
Right. But the fact that he's 97, that's what I'm saying. To find comments, to find racist comments, you're probably going to find them among mostly older people.
Right.
Now, there's going to be some young people, but I think the percentage of young people that are racist these days is not as big as it used to be, because I think we're progressing in that area.
I would hope, granted, I've had a conversation with a person who is a minority and does not agree with that.
Oh, I have too, but I think that's a whole discussion, because I think there's a lot of reasons behind that. And I've even talked with people that say, oh, well, they'll say I feel discriminated against because of my minority status or my color or whatever, right? My ethnicity. But I think there's more to it than what people might think. You know, I don't think that's always black and white, you know, because we've talked before about like, to use, let's say, men and women. Like I had a conversation on here one time about how there's more men that are CEOs of big companies. Therefore, sexism. Okay. I'm like, maybe, could be. But there's also a lot of other options it could be too. So my question is, how many women are applying for these CEO jobs?
Right.
And the ones that are they as qualified as the men? See, these are all important questions, because if what you're telling me is that there's a man and a woman that are both applying for the job and they're both equally qualified, and you look at statistics and you see this, let's say you look at 500 scenarios of this exact same thing. They both have the same credentials, same amount of experience, same degree, right? All this, everything's exactly the same except their gender. Okay. Right. And out of those 500 samples you took, 400 out of the 500, the man was hired. Then I would agree and say, yep, that sure sounds like sexism to me.
Right. But I do think that happens. Yes.
Right. On that grand of a scale?
I don't know if on the grand of the scale.
Yeah.
But I do believe sexism is out there. Yes, 100%.
Of course it is. And but see, that's as is racism.
Yeah.
But when people try to say that it's the same as it was in the 30s and the 40s, that's where I'm like, okay, I'm getting off the bus here, because there's just no way. I'm sorry.
You think that maybe it's because I don't feel that we are white, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of tan, but
yeah. We don't live in an area that I think is, we're not living in the South.
Sure.
We're not a person of color.
Sure.
Our view is different because we're not surrounded by it, whereas in some places they are still.
Yes, and that's the argument, that we don't have the life experience.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Sure. But I still think there's more to that.
With men and women, like.
Correct.
You won't see the same things that I see because you're a man and a woman.
And you're totally right. You're totally right. But I also feel like there's so many more elements to that conversation that need to start existing, because what ends up happening and I've talked to people with this, I applied for this job, I didn't get it. Oh, well, who got it? Well, Bob Jones got it.
Right.
Oh, they just hired him because he's a man.
Okay.
No, and that's just the assumption that's jumped to for no other reason other than the guy got it and the girl didn't.
Right. No, I feel like that's ignorant. I don't agree.
And it's the same thing. We'll say the jobs are you got a black guy and a white guy that are applying for the same job, and the white guy's hired, and they say racism.
Right.
Well, no, let's look into the situation. Well, the black guy only had a high school diploma.
Right.
The white guy had a master's degree.
Right.
And 4 years of work experience in that exact profession. The black guy had never done. I mean, that's all important stuff, right? We can't just jump to the conclusion.
Factors of the situation. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
but if that was switched, and let's say the black guy had the master's degree and he had 5 years experience, and they still hired the white guy, then I'll be like, okay, something's going on here.
Yes, for sure.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, all I'm saying, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that topic, but that's that there's a whole lot more that I think needs to start happening with those kinds of things. Instead of people just throwing around terms like, oh, America's systemically racist.
Right.
Let's talk about it. I mean, where? Show me what part of the system of America is still racist. Because, and they say, oh, it's as bad as the 20s, 30s. I'm sorry, in the 20s and 30s and the 40s and the 50s even, there was restaurants you could not even eat in if you were a certain color. I'm sorry, we are nowhere near that now.
Right.
Like, not even close.
Right.
Am I saying there's no racist people in the world? No, of course there is.
Well, and some of those restaurants they're allowed to go into according to the sign. However, maybe when they walk in, they don't feel safe because
Sure.
those people are still sitting in there, even though the sign's down now. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. But I
do
also
feel like that is an option.
yes, that's a possibility. But I also think there is some predetermined looking for it coming from that side too.
Yes.
An assumption.
I can see that.
And to where if I walk in there and somebody turns and looks at, maybe they're not even looking at me. Maybe they're looking over at the server who's behind me. But my first thought is, what's that guy looking at? Is he looking at me because I'm this color, or because my hat's sideways? Or, I mean, what's going on? Like, whatever it is, you know. There could be so many other reasons why that person's head turned, but the first jump to, right? It's the same with someone being pulled over. Oh, you just pulled me over because I'm black. No, because your taillight was out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the first jump. But again, anyway, I get into hot water talking about that stuff, so I'm surprised to stop there. All right. So the last thing we'll talk about, the last thing I have to talk about, you feel free to talk. If you want to keep going with whatever you got, you go for it. But the last thing that I wanted to bring up was absolute truth.
Okay.
Have you heard that term before?
Not sure. I don't think so.
So it basically just means an absolute truth is something that's true regardless of anything outside of it.
Okay.
Like, regardless of, I mean, I would say an absolute truth is this is a phone. And that right there, you can see it, is a picture of my dog, Misty, wearing a Christmas sweater, which she doesn't like very much. So, right. So that would, to me, that's an absolute truth. This is actually a phone.
Right.
Now, you might be schizophrenic. Maybe you have dementia. Maybe you're seeing pink elephants on parade. Maybe you're on drugs. Right. And you might say, no, that is a camel.
Right.
Right there.
Okay.
And maybe you believe that with all your heart, soul, and mind. Right.
Right.
But it's not.
It's not. It's literally a dog. Yeah.
So that would be an absolute truth.
Okay.
So do you believe that those exist?
I mean, they must exist. Yeah.
Okay.
You just showed me your phone and dog, so I'm going to be on board with that. Yeah.
Well, you would agree that that's an absolute truth, that is my phone.
Yes. Actually, it could be somebody else's phone, but it's a phone.
Okay. True. Good point. Or
a dog. I don't know.
And just some random dog I got off Bing.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yes. It's a phone with a dog on it. Yes.
It is a phone with a dog on it.
I don't know if it's Ryan's phone, could be Bethany's phone.
Or Ryan's dog, or
Ryan's dog could be.
I mean, she's small. She could even be a hamster for all you know. I mean, she's
that's true. Can't tell with that sweater. Yes. I believe it exists. Okay.
So then the next question would be, do those absolute truths only exist in the material world? Like things.
Right. My instinct is to say yes, but I'm sure there's going to be an instance where I would say, oh yeah, I can see that too. So,
okay.
I mean,
well, to use a topic we've already discussed, and I don't mean to bring this back up again, but I'm not going to talk about pedophiles, but to bring in the different topic that we already discussed, just because it's irrelevant. It's relevant. So is something like gender an absolute truth?
I mean, that's hard because you can look it up in the dictionary. I don't even know what the definition is currently now, because things could change probably, right?
Of gender, you mean?
Yeah. I'm sure in the dictionary, at least at one point, if it doesn't still say that, it would specifically say what you're born as. This is your body part.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Well, it's all based on biology, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. A biological definition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I feel like, I think that it's a little more fluid than that nowadays. So I would not necessarily think that it's an absolute truth.
But was it before it was fluid in society?
Well,
it couldn't be, right? Because absolute means it doesn't change based on what people start to say about it or think differently about it. It either is it or it isn't.
Well, then I would say that people probably thought that it was at one point, but maybe it wasn't. Just because they thought it doesn't necessarily mean it, right?
Right.
So obviously, one time in the world, they thought there was only, boys had penis, girls have vagina.
Right.
It's how you're born. That's what you are. The doctor told you when you.
Right.
But now maybe we are more accepting and open-minded and more educated, or whatever the case may be. So maybe it was never an absolute truth, but we thought that it was at one point.
Right. So when you take the example back of the phone again, today we're saying this is an absolute truth, that this is a phone and it has a dog on it. Now, what if 50 years from now,
right,
a big part of society decides, no, this is not a phone. It's actually a camel. And it's not a picture of a dog. That's a picture of, you know, Donald Trump or something, right? Does that mean that right here, as we sat here and said that that's absolute truth, that it's a phone, does that mean it actually wasn't an absolute truth? We just got some more information to teach us that this is not a phone.
Right. That would then make sense.
Okay.
Because, my first thought was, okay, so maybe back then gender was an absolute truth because, you know, 50 years we're now looking at it and maybe it wasn't. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like you said, you nailed it on the head for me. It was education. Now we have different sources. There's education behind it, whatever. So it wasn't a phone. We thought that it was a phone,
right?
But it's no longer a phone. So maybe gender was an absolute truth to the extent that we knew at that time. And maybe it is no longer from what we know at this time. But in 50 years, who knows?
Right. Yeah. So it's like when more information presents itself, we learn more maybe about something that we thought, like there was a time where people thought the earth was flat.
Right.
Right. But I would say at the time that they thought the earth was flat, it was still round, even though they didn't know that. Right. Like it wasn't
that's
knowledge.
All the information they had. Right.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. But then I would ask with let's say I wasn't going to go down this road, but here we go. So when dealing with like the transgender thing again.
I thought you were going to say pedophile.
No. We're done with the pedophiles. I'm not going to bring up pedophiles again. Maybe I'll call this episode "No More Pedophiles." So like with the transgender thing, like what new information has come into play? Because if I'm studying it correctly and what I'm looking at correctly is there's really no new information other than what people feel they are, right? Like nothing else has changed. There's no difference. It's just their mind has thought something different.
Right, because the biology, at least the outward biology, hasn't changed.
Correct.
Right. So
but the inner mind. So, and this is totally dumb, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, like, what about like people that think they're animals?
Oh, furries?
Furries.
Isn't that what they're called?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think that they are actually animals?
Well,
because their biology is still the same as when they were born. They didn't grow a tail
I do not, but I believe that they are.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. But that's kind of what we're asking, right? Like even from the transgender side, I have no doubt in my mind that gender dysphoria is a real thing. Okay. I believe it's totally real. I think there are people. Now, do I believe everybody that's claiming to be transgender really is gender dysphoric? I do not. But for those that really have gender dysphoria, I think that they believe with all of their being that they are a gender opposite than what their outer biology shows. Right. I believe that. But the question for me is, does that mean they are? See, that to me would be that's the difference between a opinion or a kind of a relative truth versus an absolute truth. Right? Because if the truth changes based on what somebody thinks or believes about it, then it's not an absolute truth. It's a relative truth.
Okay.
So that's kind of where the issue is. Like I don't hate anybody who's transgender or anything. I have no hatreds towards them or anything. I do disagree with us saying that they are, let's say, a biological male who believes himself to be a woman that he is a woman.
Okay.
And people saying things like men can get pregnant. Well, what they mean by that is that it's a biological woman,
right,
who, a trans man who believes he's a man getting pregnant. Well, I would say no, it's a woman getting pregnant. It's still a woman getting pregnant. That's not a man getting pregnant. But then other people would jump on me about that and say, well, how dare you? How dare you not say they're a man? They identify as a man. I say, well, if I identify as a peacock, that doesn't make me a peacock. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. But what is the objection to just accepting that they are a man now? Like what's
well, because they're not.
What's the concern?
The concern for me personally, again, right. And this is just me speaking for myself. If somebody wants to change their name, let's take Ellen Page, right? Now Elliot Page.
Yeah.
I would have no problem in the world saying Elliot.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
I'm not lying. That's their name.
Right.
Correct.
Courthouse says so. They legally did it.
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
I don't even care if it's legal. Even if they say, hey, I want to go by houseplant. Okay. I'll call you houseplant. No problem.
Okay.
Whatever. If that's what you want to be called, that's what I'll call you.
Okay.
But when they say, but I also want you to call me a male. I want you to call me a man. I want you to say he and him. Right. Where I'm like, now I'm lying. I'm saying something that's not true.
Okay. So if that's your mentality, right? That's the process.
Yeah.
What if Elliot Page, right? Had top and bottom surgery, like did all the surgeries.
Yep.
Had all the things changed.
Yep.
Would you then call them a him?
No.
Even though they have all the same body parts as you.
Right. Because I think it's beyond that. I wouldn't do that any more than somebody that had surgery to remove their regular teeth and put fangs in and had hair follicle. Yeah, had hair follicles put all over them to grow hair like a werewolf. I'm not going to call them a wolf because they're still what they are is they're a human who's had surgeries to make themselves look like a wolf. They're not a wolf. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same, to me, it's the same concept. And again, I'm not trying to be mean, or I'm not trying to, I got no hatreds towards Elliot Page.
Right.
That's what they want to be. Okay. I support their right to be that. I don't support them making me conform to what they think. Because to me, that's no different than what they're saying I'm doing. Right?
I mean, I don't think that them asking for proper pronouns are asking them. I don't think it's asking you to think a particular way. It's just respecting what they want to be called. I think that's different.
Right. So I could say him, but in my mind still believe it's a her.
Yes. I feel like you can think whatever you want, but if you're going to address them out of respect, address them how they want to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the moral dilemma for me. And that's why when I am addressing them, I just say their name.
Right, which is safest.
Exactly. But then there's people that push it. Like they'll try to get you to say. There was even that video of that guy that was going around purposely trying to get people in a restaurant. He was videoing them. And they come and say, "Oh, what can I get for you, ma'am?" Excuse me? I'm a him. Right. You know, like all these different restaurants they were going to doing this. It's like, dude, just stop. You know?
I mean, I don't really see that in like a normal situation.
It's probably not. It's probably a very small percentage.
Well, and like sometimes I haven't been in this situation often. But I feel like I have to be, I'm very careful about how I refer to them. Like I have to take pause. Mm-hmm. Just because visually I see something doesn't mean, verbally I can say the same thing, but I have to take pause and think before I speak, which one isn't a bad idea in general. Think before you speak, right?
Right.
But from what I've been told and understand is as long as you're making the attempt to call them the name that they now feel like they identify as, or the pronoun, that's showing them enough respect.
Sure.
That, you know what I mean? Like you're at least trying. You're trying to put some effort. If you slip up every once in a while, no big deal. as long as you're trying to do it for the
Right.
future. Right.
But what do you think about all the ones that go beyond like the him, her, they, them? Like there's like hundreds of different pronouns that people are claiming. Like, what if somebody you work with wanted to go by Zemzer or what? I don't even know what they all are.
I mean, I don't think I've come across it. Like, again, at the end of the day,
it's probably a very small percentage.
Right. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, if someone wants me to address them in a particular way, what's the harm for me? Like, whatever.
What if somebody wanted you to
call them a pedophile?
Yes. No. What if somebody wanted you to call them like, "Oh, holy God, your highness," every time you address them? Would you be like, well, out of respect, I got to say what they want me to say?
I mean, no, but I think that's taking it far, right?
It is taking it far.
So what's funny is we are interviewing at my work because we're hiring, and a guy came in and during his interview, and apparently at a previous law office that he used to work at, one of the attorneys would make people call him, let's say his last name was Smith, right? Attorney Smith. Every time you addressed him, it was Attorney Smith.
It's like doctor.
Like, you're so pretentious. I can't even with you, but
yeah, whatever.
And I mean, yes, would I have an issue with saying that? Because I feel it's being arrogant and pretentious.
Yeah.
But I don't look at it as the same as like they want to be called, he, him, as opposed to her, she, or whatever. I don't know. Like it's right. Again, I don't come across it a whole lot. I don't have a ton of experience.
Right.
But
I don't think most do come across it a whole lot. I think the things we see on the TikToks and all that kind of stuff is, like I said, I'm sure it's the minority. But I guess I speak that way in general because 10 years ago, it was a minority, a very strong minority of biological males that wanted to be called she, her. Right. So, and that's always kind of, you asked a minute ago, like where's the harm? Or I forgot exactly how you worded it. I feel like it opens a door because to me, if I'm supposed to pretend like a biological male is a woman because they say so, by the same logic, I should pretend that they're the Queen of England if they say they're the Queen of England, right? Like it's the same concept to me. I understand that's not happening.
Right. I mean, okay, yes, I see your point, but I also feel like, can we not just address it if that happens?
Well, and we will, the same way we're addressing the he, him, they, them.
Well, I don't know. Are we like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like kind of trying to get the cart in front of the horse a little bit there, but I see your point, and I don't necessarily disagree a lot with it, but I don't know. Like, I feel like that's most of my mentality of like my thoughts and views and about social issues and whatever is, one, what's the harm?
Right.
And trying to evaluate what the harm is. How does it affect me? Evaluate to that extent. And I think that also helps guide of like, how am I going to be accepting of something? Am I going to disagree with something? Am I going to, hate somebody or something, or, like whatever it is? I feel like I try to keep that in mind. Like, okay, what's the harm? Who's it harming?
Right.
Is it harming me? Is it my kid? Whatever. And what difference does it really make? Or
sure,
people deserve respect. Like, is that the minimum that I can do is call them by their new name?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of my thought process.
No, yeah, that's good stuff. And I don't know how we got there, but the whole
I'm like, I think we went back to social issues, and
we were talking about absolute truth, and then I was using that as an example. But I mean, I guess my point was I apply that to God. And I say either God is an absolute truth or he's not. Like, it's either relative to where whatever you believe about God is true for you, and whatever I believe about God is true for me, and we're both right. Or there's an absolute truth, an absolute God who is the standard. And I guess if that's true, then who is he? Right? That's kind of an important question that I think we would ask.
I just feel like saying God is an absolute truth is just not just because I don't necessarily believe in God, but also I look at other religions who do believe in a God, not your God.
Right.
A God. I feel like that's kind of crappy and also disrespectful to some extent that like you people are over here like, hey, my God is an absolute truth. And this person's like, well, I have reasons to believe what I believe in, and I have backup, and I have supporting evidence, and I feel my God is the absolute truth, and they're not the same God.
Right.
Like, well, someone's wrong.
Absolutely.
So
if I was talking to somebody like that, I would say, I would love to see your evidence. And if your evidence is compelling, I'll come over to your side of the fence.
I mean, I'm sure that they have their own evidence.
I'm sure they do too, but I don't want to look at it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like that, it's more than experiential for me. Like if someone says, well, I believe this is true because I had an experience with God. That's not evidence. That might be very true. That might be 100% true. I mean, I feel like I've had an experience with God too, but that's not enough for me to believe it's true. I could be nuts. I could think I had an experience with God, and it could have been just a mental disorder I have or something. Like
there are a lot of people who do think they had a situation with God, and
yeah.
Well,
there's plenty of people that think they are God. You know?
Yes,
so it's like, you know, but I mean, that's what I mean. So that's why I would want to see the evidence. And
so you said that like when you chose Christianity,
yeah,
and you did all this research on other religions as well.
Sure.
Do you believe, or did you, whatever, however you want to phrase it, like do as much research and exposure, not just like reading books, but like Bible studies and going to churches or whatever, as you did with Christianity? Like there had to.
I mean, have I spent the same amount of time in trying to experience the other religions as I have this one?
Before you made a final decision, not necessarily like, hey, like I'm going to spend a year doing this and a year doing, I don't mean to that extent, but like obviously at some point you made a decision to
up to the point of becoming a Christian, you mean?
Yes.
Probably not. No, I mean, because I mean, there are some religious beliefs that I don't even know about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Also, I mean, they're out there,
basics, right? We've got Mormonism, we've got Jehovah's Witness, Catholic.
Sure.
I just feel like I think it's impossible for most people. I'm not
right.
To put in as much time and effort into one religion and all the even the basics, right? Even the main ones.
No, and you're right.
You're
right. Yes.
So I just feel like it's very, I don't know a good word for it. Like, I just feel like it's, you think that you believe in the right thing and you consider it an absolute truth, but so do these other people with different religions.
Right.
And I just don't agree with saying, hey, yours is right and mine is wrong. Right. To some extent, I'm like, you know what? Believe whatever you want to believe.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's great. People should have some sort of belief system. So if that's what you choose.
Right.
And hey, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to go to the right place, right? So if this guy over here thinks this is my pathway and this is what I believe in, because I think when I die, I'm going to get to this really great place, whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. Let him think it. Great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, let him think it. That's why I may not believe any of these guys.
Unless it's wrong. See, that's what I said. That's why I said we go back to that hinge pin.
But like you don't know if it's wrong.
100%. No, you're right. You're right.
So that's my, like, I may not believe any of you guys.
Sure.
I don't think that.
But I would just say it's something. It's definitely something to look into, because if the claims of Christianity are true, hypothetically, if they are, then none of that other stuff even matters.
Well, of course.
Right. So that would be like, that would be where I would start looking. And if some other religion claimed the same thing and they're like, no, we're the right way. We're the only way.
Right.
I would say that's a big claim. Let me look into that claim. Right. And I like the way you worded your question, because you put it just up until me becoming a Christian, like how much time did I spend on other stuff? And it's a good way to put it. But I would also say that since I've chosen that, since I've started following the Lord and the Bible and all that kind of stuff, it didn't stop there. Right. I've had plenty of times where I've run in with somebody, or I've met a Mormon or a Hindu person or whatever, and we'll talk. And they might say, oh, well, Ryan, here's why I disagree with Christianity. I'm not just going to say, well, no, I got the right truth. I've already found it. I'm 100% convinced.
This one.
Yeah, just keep all your stuff away from me. No, I am totally open In fact, I've said it like this. If Christianity is wrong, I want to know right now.
Right.
If hypothetically it's wrong, I don't want to follow it anymore. Why the heck would I want to do that? What a waste of my time, right?
Yeah.
I could be doing other stuff. I could be doing the right thing, whatever that may be, if it's not Christianity.
Right.
So I want to know that. So that's why, to me, it's important when somebody, if they make a claim, I say, well, let's talk about it. Show me.
But I don't think that you can get to that conclusion with a couple of conversations or a couple of articles or whatever. I feel like it has to be like an immersion situation.
Sure.
To completely know it, right?
Right. But I feel like the surface evidence would be enough to compel me to immerse myself. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if the surface claims were, okay, Ryan, here's what I believe, and here's my evidence, and I look at their evidence, I'm like, kind of flimsy. But if it's like, oh my gosh, that makes a compelling point. Okay, I'll come to your church. Let me listen to your pastor teach. Let me spend some time with you. You know, let me see what this is all about. Maybe because this sounds pretty compelling, you know? So, but somebody saying, Ryan, I believe Christianity is wrong and my belief system is correct. And I say, why? Oh, because I had a dream.
No, and
I'm sorry, that's not solid enough for me.
And I would hope that people aren't saying that or responding in that way.
Oh, I've met people like that.
Okay, well, I think they're ridiculous.
I do too. Yes, I agree. We'll agree on that stance. Then.
No offense to people who are listening. If you said it, I mean, yes, no, I feel like it. But on the flip side, because you're so immersed in your Christianity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you now objective to other religions and what you could find or not find, or immersing in them or not, or what? I don't think you come from it. You know, it's kind of like when we talked about music, right?
Yes.
You've been so involved in your life for so long.
Yeah.
Into other things, it's that same mentality of like,
no,
I hold this one to be pretty true.
Yeah, I would say I'm at the point now where I am convinced, not 100%, but I'm convinced based on what I've seen, what I've researched, what I've studied, that it's true.
Right.
I'm confident, right? I have a confidence because I've put in that time and that work, and what I've seen has made me more confident. However, that doesn't mean I'm gonna say, don't bother me with your evidence. My mind's already made up. Right? Like, there's always an open door for something, but I'm at the point where it's going to have to be something that's going to have to disprove what I've already seen. Does that make sense? I'm not talking about like in a mystical way, like I saw God appear in my room. I mean, like, just like even the evidence for the Bible being a divine book as opposed to just written by men. Like, you're going to have to show me compelling evidence that it was just written by men who were trying to make money, right? Because that's a claim. Oh, the men just wrote it because they for power and money, and they just wanted to control people. That's a decent claim,
right? But
I'm going to have more than your word on that. You're going to have to show me, because all the evidence I've seen from my research goes against that claim. So you're going to have to show me enough to push me over to the other side. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So I'm not closing the door, I don't think I'm at the point where I can't be objective. You know, and look at I even look at the flaws whenever there's, because you see it constantly. People say on the TV and business things, oh, well, you know, Christianity condones slavery and you know, Christians hate gay people, and they have all these claims, and I'm like, show me where it says that. Like, what are you talking about? And then they don't usually show you the Bible. They usually show some video, some guy with a Jesus Loves Me t-shirt on beating up a gay guy, and I'm like, that's not evidence against Christianity. That's evidence against that moron who's wearing the wrong shirt.
Again, like we said about when I said about like the individuals, like a lot of the problems I have is the individuals, not necessarily.
Yes. Right. And I have that same problem.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's from a different perspective. Because for me, this is people that are claiming to be me. Right. They got the Jesus hat on. They got the fish on their bumper sticker.
Right.
And they're committing these acts, and they're doing and saying these things. I'm like, as if they're representing Christ. It's like, no. Right. I don't believe that.
Right.
That's why
it makes the rest of you look bad.
Absolutely.
Like, that's just how the mentality works, right?
Yes. And that's why many years ago I adopted the philosophy of saying, I don't know if it's a philosophy, maybe it's not a philosophy. I adopted this practice. Someone says, Ryan, are you a Christian? I don't say yes. I ask them a question. You tell me what a Christian is first.
Okay.
And then if I align with that, I'll say yes. That sounds like me. That's exactly who I am. You see what I'm saying? Because if someone says, because you say the word Christian,
right.
you say that word to 20 different people in front of you, they could have 20 completely different ideas of what that means.
Right.
So I don't want to just say yes to this guy. Are you a Christian? Yeah. And then he walks away thinking, oh, that guy's a racist homophobe.
Right.
It's like,
right,
no. Wait, whoa. Where'd you get that from? Oh, all Christians are racist homophobes. What? Okay.
Well, some of them are. Yeah.
Some of them are. Well, I would say some that claim to be Christians are. But again, they're not following the teachings of Christ because Christ was not a racist homophobe.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
I think from what I've heard of all people, Christ would not be a racist homophobe.
I would agree. Yes. I would agree with that. So, all right. Well, that's it.
All
yeah,
right.
we went long. We went like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Woo! That was a fun one.
Yeah,
that was really cool. So
that wasn't terrible. That was
Told you.
I managed. Yeah.
You made it. Told you would. Yeah. So all right. Well, hey, thanks you so much for doing this. It was really fun.
Yeah, no
I'm glad you finally jumped on the wagon. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
I know at least Barbara will listen to it because she loves me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have about 60 regular listeners.
Oh, nice. That's great.
It seems like every episode gets about 60 downloads eventually. So
awesome.
Yeah. So you got 60 people are going to hear what you have to say.
Awesome.
Better prepare yourself for stardom.
They'll either love me or they'll hate me. That's how it works, right?
Yep. Exactly. So, all right. Well, cool. We will talk at you later.
All right. Sounds like
all right.
Tell
Thanks.
the family I said hello.
I will. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoy this week's episode. For questions or comments, my email is whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. If you would like to continue the conversation, please join the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast Facebook group. If you haven't yet, please leave a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever else you are listening to this from. Thank you. Here's a clip from next week.
Talk about things like the truckers. You talk about things like they're happening up in Canada, like the gun thing and all of that. Americans' first reaction, that's against your rights. Whoa, hold up.
Yeah.
They don't have those rights.
Right.
You have those rights here as Americans. Pay attention to what's happening here. And again, I would hope that going back to this idea of defending your right under these amendments is important to me because I want to protect my rights. It's a slippery slope. If I let them take your freedom of speech, guess what? Now I am going to be limited in my freedom of speech. And then it's just a matter of time. They'll just wipe all the way through the 10 amendments and you'll be done.